The elevator protested on every floor like an old man standing from a low couch. Torres shifted Lily higher on her hip and leaned her shoulder into the cart of sample kits. The lab building reflected the city in its windows, cracked sidewalks, a stubborn maple pushing its roots through concrete, the bus that always sighed like it had bad news. 3, 2, 1, Lily whispered. The elevator dinged exactly when she said 1. Psychic, Maya said. Scientist, Lily corrected, solemn in her bright dinosaur sneakers. Also psychic. They spilled onto the 4th floor, where the open-plan lab was a rectangle of light, benches, pipettes lined like tulips, the hum of incubators more constant than sleep. Maya slid the sample card against the wall, knelt to smooth a curl behind Lily's ear. STEM club after school, then abuelas, Maya said. Deal? Deal. But I get the good markers this time, not the dried ones. You get the good markers, Maya promised. She set Lily up with crayons at a break table near the window. A picture of a T-Rex took shape in violent purple. Maya sank into the habit of the morning, gloves on, checklist out, pull the samples, calibrate the reader that liked to drift by half a degree when it was in a mood. The device she'd been coaxing along for a year, her device, sat under a cover on the corner bench. A portable diagnostic the size of a lunchbox, with a microfluidic cartridge that could translate a drop of blood into an answer before fear grew teeth. Not finished. Not approved. But it worked on the bench more often than it didn't, and sometimes that was all you needed to keep going. A shadow broke the pattern. Bennett's tie, expensive navy, arrived a heartbeat before the rest of him. He had a smile shaped by mirrors. Morning, Maya, he said, like he owned mornings. Morning, she said, measuring out calm. He glanced at the covered device as if it were a puppy who'd chewed his shoes. Team huddle at 9. Big news. Big news wore layoffs like a cologne. Maya swallowed. I'll be there. After he left, Lily whispered, is he the boss who doesn't like your box? Maya smiled. He likes paperwork more than boxes. That's silly. Boxes can become anything. Maya's chest ached with a love that felt like stitches pulling skin together. Exactly. At 9, the team gathered, white coats, tired faces, coffee cups scarred with first names. Bennett stood in front of a slide that said, Restructuring for Impact. He described focus and streamlined portfolios and matching donor priorities. Maya heard, we will stop working on anything that doesn't fit a donor deck. When her slide came up, a small photo of her prototype, the bullet prototype Project Sunset, she felt the air tilt. Sunset? She asked. Soft word for an inevitable thing, he said. We'll place you on the clinical assay pipeline full-time. Stable, funded. And the prototype? A fascinating exploration. He made it sound like a hobby. We'll archive. A hand on her shoulder, Jenna from across the bench. I'm sorry, Jenna mouthed. Maya nodded without looking. The cover over her device had never felt so thin. When the meeting broke, she packed in silence, the way you pack after a funeral's last casserole is gone. Lily tugged her sleeve. Mama? STEM club now? STEM club now, Maya said, and forced light into her voice. She wheeled the cart down the hall, the elevator sighed, and outside the sun was pretending to be warm. On the bus, Lily pressed her face to the window. If we had your box at the clinic, people could get answers faster, right? Maya looked at the neighborhoods rolling by, the corner store with the handwritten sign about EBT, the mural of women in lab coats raising wrenches and beakers like flags. That's the dream, she said. Then we keep dreaming, Lily said, as if it were the simplest instruction in the world. Rent was due in 11 days. Her tutoring check was late. The lab shift covered groceries, bus passes, the utility bill she always paid a day before the late fee bit. She dragged the numbers into a spreadsheet and tried to make them behave. Numbers didn't care about feelings. Numbers were honest like rain. Her phone buzzed. Jamal, you okay? Heard about the meeting. Got extra pizza slices if that helps the economy. She smiled despite herself. I'm good. I'll swing by after STEM club. She didn't add, I want to scream until I faint. In the after-school room, 20 kids swarmed tables with popsicle sticks and LEDs. Build a bridge you can stand a sneaker on, Maya said. You have 30 minutes and the laws of physics. Lily worked beside a boy named Mateo with the concentration of a chess player. When their bridge collapsed, they adapted without tears, and Maya felt a small fire burn brighter inside. This was why science mattered, not the grants, not the slides. The trying again. On the walk to Jamal's apartment, Lily's steps got wobbly. I'm cold, she said, though the evening still held the sun's heat. At Jamal's, they ate on the couch with plates on their knees. Lily didn't finish her slice. She leaned against Maya, heavy and too warm. You okay, bug? Maya asked, and Lily's answer came out thin. My head hurts. Maya touched her forehead, heat like a kettle. We're going home, she told Jamal. I'll text. At home, the thermometer blinked 102. Tylenol. Cool cloth. A story about a brave triceratops. At 2 a.m, the fever pushed to 103. 5 and Lily's breathing sounded like paper rubbing paper. Maya called the clinic. We're over capacity, the nurse said, gentle and tired. If she's breathing fast or you notice a rash, she's 5, Maya said. She's on fire. They sat in the ER under a flickering TV. Lily's head lay limp on Maya's lap. A doctor listened, ordered blood draws, frowned at the numbers. It's likely a resistant infection. We don't have the therapeutic on hand, he said. We can transfer, but it may be hours. What do I do in hours? Maya asked. You wait, he said, and moved on to the next name on his clipboard. Maya stared at the 4-pole, at her reflection in the chrome, messy bun, lab coat still on, hand shaking as it smoothed Lily's hair. If she'd had the device finished, a drop of blood would have told the clinic what they were fighting. Not knowing stole time, and time was blood. Boxes can become anything, Lily had said. Maya pressed her lips to her daughter's forehead, whispered, hold on. By noon, antibiotics arrived. Lily slept, her skin cooler by a whisper. Maya's phone buzzed, Dr. Bennett. She let it ring out, then typed a single text, I won't let the prototype die. He replied with a thumbs up, empty as a paper cup. 2 days at home. Lily clung like a baby monkey when awake and slept heavy. The clinic called with lab results Maya could have predicted, resistant strain, wrong first line, lucky they'd guessed the right second. Follow up in a week, the nurse said. Can I bring you something? Maya asked. A check-in device? She stopped before she begged. We don't have budget for new equipment, the nurse said kindly. I'm sorry. After Lily's breathing softened, Maya wrote a list on the back of an overdue notice. Call venture fund? Repurpose lab scrap? Garage? Aisha? Last seen, conference, 3 years ago, she dialed a venture fund whose website had pictures of people in fleece vests smiling at white bards. We love your mission, the associate said. But we need to see traction, IP, regulatory pathway. I have a working prototype, Maya said. Fantastic, he said, and she heard him reading a script. Come back when it's validated. After the call, she cried for the first time since the ER, quiet so she wouldn't wake Lily. Then she looked around the apartment, at the plant that refused to die on the windowsill, at the box of spare components under the bed. Okay, she told the room. We build. She went to the lab on her off hours and asked Jenna for a favor. Any expired reagents? Old cartridges? Stuff for the bin? Jenna chewed her lip. You didn't hear this from me. She nudged a cardboard box along the floor with her foot. Spring cleaning. In the hallway, Maya nearly collided with Dr. Bennett. Scavenger hunt, he asked. Just cleaning my bench, she said. Excellent. Let's channel your energy into essays with deliverables, he said, as if kindness were something he could staple to her. At home, she turned her kitchen table into a bench, alcohol wipes, a glass slide the size of her palm, the handheld pump she'd once bought with birthday money. Jamal came by with groceries and a lecture about sleeping. You look like you're living inside a coffee cup, he said. I'm good. Lily's down. I can't waste the momentum. He picked up a microfluidic chip with 2 fingers. What is this, a clear waffle? Channels etched at 50 microns, she said. And don't breathe on it. He made the sign of the cross and put it down. You're going to do it, aren't you? I don't have a lab. I don't have money. But I have a kitchen and a problem, she said. And a 5-year-old who needs me to be impossible. Jamal pulled her into a hug that smelled like chalk and cafeteria pizza. Then be impossible. That night, she built until the number stopped swimming. At dawn, Lily shuffled in, hair a nest, dinosaur sneakers in hand. Mama, Lily said, your box is awake. Maya laughed, wiped her face, and kissed the crown of Lily's head. So am I. By the end of the week, the device could draw a sample through the chip without coughing bubbles into the channel. The optical sensor she'd salvaged from an old reader wasn't precise, but she could compensate with repeats and patience. She called Aisha. Maya? Aisha's voice had the same quick brightness Maya remembered. How are you? It's Ben, I need help, Maya said, and let the words be a bridge instead of an apology. Aisha listened without interrupting, then asked 3 clean questions like scalpels. Where's your noise? What's your cartridge shelf life? What sample volume can you guarantee at point of care? Noise stabilizes after 30 seconds if the temperature holds. Shelf life unknown, maybe a week. Sample volume, a drop. Capillary, Maya said. Send me a picture, Aisha said. And your bill of materials. And your worst case failure. I'll call back in an hour. Maya sent photos. Then she sat on the floor, back to the fridge, and counted Lily's breaths. An hour later, Aisha called. It's not pretty, she said, but neither was the first radio I built in my dad's garage. A smile in her voice. I can come for a weekend. I'll bring a temperature control unit and a friend who owes me access to a community makerspace. If we do this, we do it focused. It will cost sleep. I can pay you in coffee, Maya said. I drink tea, Aisha said. But I accept the currency of stubborn women. Maya laughed, a sound that felt like a window opening. That night, Maya told Lily, my friend is coming to help Mama fix the box. Is she a scientist too? She is. And she's very good at telling boxes what to be. Lily considered. Then she can help it be a dragon. A dragon that diagnoses, Maya said. The best kind. Aisha arrived with a duffel of parts and eyes that had learned to scan rooms for threats and opportunities. She hugged Lily first, as if to seek permission from the person at the center of the story. Lily allowed it and then showed her a lineup of plastic dinosaurs. In the garage of Jamal's friend, the only space they could borrow, Aisha set the temperature unit on a wobbly table. We'll need a stable 37 degrees Celsius, she said. And a way to keep dust from settling in your channels. We have plastic sheeting, Jamal said, producing a roll like a magician. And masking tape. They worked until the garage smelled like alcohol and dust that had lost the argument. Aisha suggested a tweak in the channel geometry, a wider mixing chamber, a gentler laminar flow. Maya reprinted the chip on a borrowed desktop cutter that sounded like a toy. The second run looked cleaner. The third run held. At 2 a.m, Lily patted in wearing socks with moons on them. Is it done? Almost, Maya said. Tomorrow we test. On me? Lily asked, unafraid. On me first, Maya said, and Lily accepted the hierarchy like a scientist. They slept a few hours. The morning felt like the first page of a book she'd read as a child and loved so much she'd hidden it so no one else could ruin the ending. Maya's finger prick stung more than she remembered. A red dot bloomed. She eased it to the cartridge and watched capillary forces do their quiet work. The device hummed, the friendly kind, like a fridge in a childhood kitchen. Signal is noisy, Aisha said, eyes on the laptop. Wait for it. The line steadied, then rose, a small miracle rendered in pixels. Control positive, Aisha said. Now the human. Mama first, Lily repeated gravely, as if reciting a lab rule. Maya took a breath and nodded at Aisha. Let's do it. They'd prepared a micro cartridge with a panel tuned to the likely culprits behind Lily's infection, but Aisha had also convinced Maya to add an exploratory channel, an open lane for the molecular weirdos, a way to catch what you didn't know to ask. Because biology is rude, Aisha had said. Maya pricked Lily's finger. Lily watched with the same curiosity she brought to toy dinosaurs. The drop of blood slid into the cartridge. Time did the thing it does when something precious hangs in it. The screen drew out a heartbeat of data, then another. 2 channels went quiet. One rose like dawn. What is that? Jamal asked, in a whisper, as if Data could hear. Aisha leaned in. It's an inflammatory marker. But the ratio, she frowned, then smiled, then frowned again. It's an atypical biomarker profile. Not textbook. But consistent with the resistant strain you described, plus a cofactor that could explain why she wasn't responding at first. Maya's breath left her. The device had done more than confirm, it had revealed something the clinic's standard panel had missed. Okay. Maya looked at Lily, who was fascinated by her own finger. Okay. A knock sounded at the open garage door. A woman in a blazer stood with a tote bag that had a logo Maya had seen on grant pages, Open Bridge Health Accelerator. I'm sorry to intrude, the woman said. I'm Nandini from Open Bridge. We fund health tech for low resource settings. Patel, we know your work. We heard about this project through fast channels. She smiled apologetically. There's a pitch day next week. I'd like you to be on the roster. Maya wiped her hands on her jeans. The world had tilted again, but this time it tilted toward her. What's the catch? Jamal asked. 5 minutes on a stage. Data. A plan. And the courage to ask for what you need, Nandini said. Maya glanced at the device, at Lily's bright socks, at Aisha's steady face. She thought of the ER, of the nurse who didn't have a budget for answers. Okay, Maya said. We'll be there. Aisha squeezed her shoulder. Jamal exhaled. Lily whispered, does this mean the dragon gets a stage? It means the dragon gets a microphone, Maya said, and Lily giggled. Outside, the city kept being itself, sirens and buses and the stubborn maple lifting sidewalk slabs. Inside the garage, a cheap string of lights flickered on and stayed. Jamal's desk was covered in the wreckage of a teacher's salary, sticky notes, cafeteria duty rosters, and bills with numbers written in red pen like they could be tamed. Do you ever feel like your paycheck comes with a laugh track? He asked Maya, flipping through his worn checkbook. You get paid to shape teenagers' minds, she said. That's priceless. Yeah, well, my landlord prefers actual price. He sighed and rubbed his temples. They sat in his small apartment, Lily asleep on the couch wrapped in a quilt their mama had stitched years ago. Maya had stopped by after another late night in the garage lab, partly for company, partly for Jamal's terrible coffee. You sure about this pitch thing? He asked. Not sure. But necessary. He opened a spreadsheet on his battered laptop, filled with must pay and maybe later columns. Maya, I'm tapped out. I want to help, but I'm not asking for money, she cut in quickly. I just need you to keep me sane. That I can do, he said, then added, though my rate has gone up. She smirked. Paid in pizza? Paid in babysitting. Finals week is coming, and if I have to grade 80 essays on of mice and men without a break, I'll combust. Deal, Maya said, and for a brief moment, the weight lifted. The building smelled like money, polished floors, cold air, potted plants that had never seen dirt. Maya's sneakers squeaked against the marble as she approached the receptionist's desk. Her pitch deck trembled in her hand, slides she had built at 2A. After putting Lily back to bed, a man in a fitted vest ushered her into a conference room. 3 investors glanced up from their phones. Tell us about your product, one said. Maya described the device, portable, affordable, able to diagnose infections at point of care. She spoke of Lily's illness, of clinics with empty cabinets, of a system built for those who could already pay. Interesting, said another, adjusting his cufflinks. But what's your monetization strategy? It's about saving lives, Maya said. The market, he waved her off. Lives don't scale. Profits do. They thanked her politely, then suggested she return once she had traction and intellectual property protections. Outside, sunlight hit the glass so hard she had to squint. She felt like she was staring at a world designed to blind her. On the bus home, Lily leaned against her. Did they like your box? Maya forced a smile. They didn't get it. But someone will. At midnight, the garage smelled like solder and exhaustion. Maya hunched over the prototype while Jamal graded essays at a folding table, muttering about run-on sentences. You skipped dinner again, he said, not looking up. Food slows me down. So does fainting. She ignored him, eyes on the data feed. The signal wobbled, then collapsed. She buried her face in her hands. Maybe Bennett was right, she whispered. Maybe this is just a hobby. Bennett? Jamal snorted. That man wouldn't recognize an idea if it stapled itself to his forehead. But doubt chewed at her. Lily's cough had returned, Mama's voice sounded weaker every day, and Maya's own body buzzed with sleeplessness. Jamal put a hand on her shoulder. Maya, you don't have to do this alone. She looked at him, eyes burning. Then who's going to do it if I don't? A knock rattled the garage door on Saturday morning. Aisha Patel stood outside, hair pulled back, a tote bag slung over her shoulder. She looked the same, sharp, bright, carrying both warmth and gravity. Maya, she said, pulling her into a hug. You sound thinner on the phone. Busy, Maya said. Not thinner. They sat up side by side, Aisha unpacking wires and a temperature controller like she was laying out surgical instruments. Over coffee, she told her story. When I was 10, my family lived in a refugee camp. My sister got sick. No tests, no medicine, just waiting. She made it, barely. That's why I do this work. To keep someone else from waiting. Her words landed heavy but steady. Maya nodded, her throat tight. Let's finish your box, Aisha said. No, our box. The garage smelled of burnt circuits and hope. Aisha steadied the laptop, Jamal taped plastic sheeting against drafts, Lily sat cross-legged with her dinosaurs lined up like witnesses. Maya pricked her finger. A bead of blood slid into the cartridge. The signal climbed, shaky at first, then leveled into a clear line. It works, Aisha whispered. Maya laughed, a raw, disbelieving sound. She reached for Lily. Your mama made a dragon, she said. Before they could celebrate, a car engine growled outside. Bennett stepped from the shadows, his tie crisp even on a Saturday. I heard rumors, he said, eyes on the device. Still tinkering with toys, Torres? Maya stood her ground. Not toys. Tools. Be careful, he said softly. Some toys get people hurt. He left, but the chill stayed. Inside, Lily slipped her small hand into Maya's. Dragons are scary too. But they protect people. Maya nodded, eyes on the glowing signal. Exactly. The classroom smelled faintly of pencil shavings, old chalk dust, and floor wax, an odor that clung to the building like a tired memory. Jamal Torres rubbed at the bridge of his nose, staring at the cracked whiteboard that had long since lost its shine. The markers barely worked anymore, leaving faint streaks instead of bold lines. It was fourth period, and 23 students stared back at him with varying degrees of boredom, restlessness, and quiet curiosity. Most of them came from families just like his and Maya's, working long hours, living paycheck to paycheck, scraping by. Today's lesson was supposed to be a simple experiment on chemical reactions, something fun to break up the monotony of lectures. But the district's latest round of budget cuts had gutted the science department. No hydrochloric acid, no proper lab kits, not even enough safety goggles. Jamal cleared his throat. All right, class. Instead of our original experiment, we'll be doing a substitute demonstration using vinegar and baking soda. Groans rippled through the room. Seriously, Mr. T, one boy muttered from the back. That's like elementary school stuff. Another student, a wiry sophomore named Darian, raised his hand. How are we supposed to learn real chemistry without real chemicals? Jamal swallowed. He wanted to tell them the truth, that he was just as frustrated as they were, that he felt like the system had failed them. But instead he pasted on the same steady smile he'd practiced for years. Science, he said slowly, isn't just about expensive equipment. It's about curiosity. It's about asking questions and finding answers, even with the simplest of tools. Today, we're going to prove that with the basics. He walked them through measuring vinegar and scooping baking soda, though he could feel their disappointment hanging in the air like humidity before a storm. When the foam fizzed up over the rim of a glass beaker, a few students chuckled, but it wasn't the awe-filled reaction Jamal had hoped for. Later, as the class filed out, Darian lingered. His backpack hung from one shoulder, the zipper broken, notebook spilling out. Mr. T, he said quietly, I used to think I wanted to be a scientist. But now, he shrugged. What's the point if we can't even do real stuff? The words hit Jamal like a gut punch. He wanted to tell Darian not to give up, but the lump in his throat made it hard to breathe. That evening, Jamal stopped by Maya's apartment with a grocery bag of canned goods, beans, rice, a few vegetables. Lily squealed and ran to hug him, but Maya immediately noticed the weariness in his face. You okay? She asked, gently pulling the bag from his hands. Jamal sat at the small kitchen table, rubbing his forehead. I had to cancel the robotics project. No funds. The kids were crushed. Maya, in the middle of sterilizing tubing for her prototype, froze. You can't cancel. That program is the only reason half those kids even care about science. I know. Jamal's voice cracked, low with frustration. But hope doesn't buy supplies, Maya. I can't build robots out of thin air. Maya looked at Lily coloring in the corner, her small hands clutching crayons, her tongue poking out in concentration, and then back at her brother. A thought crystallized like steel in her mind, her project wasn't just about medicine. It could be about showing kids like Darian that science still mattered, that they weren't forgotten. The garage had become their lab. The air smelled of solder, motor oil, and coffee gone cold. Tools were scattered across a scarred wooden table, and the only light came from an old desk lamp perched precariously on a box of spare wires. Maya bent over a circuit board, her hands trembling slightly from exhaustion. Across from her, Aisha Patel worked with quiet efficiency, her dark eyes steady behind safety glasses. They had been working side by side for weeks, but tonight something felt different. The silence between them wasn't just focus, it was heavy, expectant. Finally, Aisha set down her soldering iron. Maya, she began softly, can I tell you something I don't usually talk about? Maya looked up, surprised by the tremor in her friend's voice. She nodded. Aisha took a breath, steadying herself. I grew up in a refugee camp outside Amman. Thousands of us crammed into tents, waiting for. I don't even know what. A future, maybe. We had no doctors, no machines. Just one nurse with a thermometer and a handful of antibiotics that always ran out too soon. Maya's chest tightened. She had known Aisha for years, but she had never heard this part of her story. My little brother, Samir, Aisha continued, her voice catching, he got sick. Just an infection. Something that would have been routine in a real hospital. But we had nothing. No labs, no tests, not even a way to know what was wrong. He died before his 8th birthday. Tears welled in her eyes, though her hands still moved with practiced precision, twisting wires, tightening screws. I swore then, Aisha said, if I ever got the chance, I'd make sure kids like him didn't die just because they were born in the wrong place. She looked at Maya, her voice fierce now. That's why I'm here. Not for money. Not for recognition. For him. The garage fell silent except for the low hum of a small fan. Maya reached across the table, resting her hand on Aisha's arm. Then we're building this for both our families, she said. And for the first time in months, Maya felt less alone. The kitchen of their mother's small house smelled of simmering chicken and garlic. Rosa Torres moved slowly between stove and counter, her once strong hands now trembling slightly as she stirred the arroz con pollo. Maya and Jamal sat at the table, the tension between them as thick as the steam rising from the pot. Lily sat beside her grandmother, happily drawing on scraps of paper with crayons. Mija, Rosa said, wiping her hands on a dish towel, your brother tells me you're still working on that invention. But are you sure? You already work so much. Maya tightened her grip on her fork, her shoulders stiff. This isn't just a hobby, Mom. It's real. It can help people. Rosa's eyes softened with worry. I know you want to help. But I see your eyes, the dark circles. You are always tired. I don't want to lose you to this dream. Before Maya could answer, Jamal spoke, his voice sharp with frustration. She's not listening to anyone. She's running herself into the ground. Maya turned to him, her voice cracking. If I don't push, Lily could die. Do you understand that? The words hung in the air like shattered glass. The table went silent except for the scrape of Lily's crayon. Rosa set down her spoon, her face pale. After dinner, Maya helped her mother into the living room. Rosa's hand lingered on hers, frail but firm. You are strong, Mija, she whispered. But strength isn't only carrying the weight. It's knowing when to share it. Maya wanted to argue, but the words lodged in her chest. For the first time, she wondered if maybe her mother was right. The apartment was dark except for the glow of Maya's laptop. She sat at the kitchen table, shoulders hunched, eyes burning from too many hours of staring at circuit schematics. The hum of the refrigerator was the only sound until Lily coughed from her small bedroom. Maya froze, listening. Another cough followed, deeper this time. She pushed back her chair and hurried to Lily's room. Her daughter was curled up, hair plastered to her forehead with sweat. The tiny humidifier rattled weakly on the dresser. Maya pressed the back of her hand to Lily's cheek, hot, too hot. Her throat tightened. Baby girl, she whispered, smoothing the damp curls. We're going back to the clinic tomorrow. Lily stirred, mumbling, Mommy, don't cry. I'm not crying, Maya lied, blinking away tears. I'm just checking on you. Back in the kitchen, she found Jamal sitting in the dark. She hadn't even heard him let himself in. His eyes were shadowed, the lines around his mouth deeper than usual. You can't keep doing this, Maya, he said quietly. Doing what? She snapped. Working? Fighting? Trying to save my child? You're killing yourself, he said flatly. And when you break, Lily will have no one. The words hit like a slap. For a long moment, Maya just stared at him, her chest heaving. Then she whispered, if I stop now, she dies anyway. 2 days later, Aisha showed up at the garage lab with a bag of takeout and 2 thermoses of coffee. She found Maya hunched over the prototype again, her hands trembling as she adjusted a sensor. You've lost weight, Aisha said bluntly, setting the food on the workbench. When's the last time you ate something that wasn't instant noodles? Maya shook her head. Not hungry. Aisha folded her arms. Liar. Sit. Eat. Or I'm shutting off the power. Reluctantly, Maya obeyed. She unwrapped the foil and took a bite, chewing mechanically. The food tasted like cardboard. You know, Aisha said softly, when I was in the camp, my mother used to starve herself so my brother and I could eat. She thought we didn't notice, but we did. You can't help Lily if you waste away. Maya put down her fork. You think I don't know that? Every time I look at her, I feel like I'm failing. The clinic has nothing. The labs don't care. And I'm just, she broke off, covering her face with her hands. Aisha reached across the table and squeezed her wrist. You're not failing. You're building something no one else has dared to build. You're giving Lily a chance. For the first time in days, Maya let herself lean into the comfort of a friend's touch. It happened on a Wednesday evening. Maya had just returned from tutoring when her phone buzzed. Jamal's voice was frantic on the other end. Mom collapsed at the store. They're taking her to County General. Maya's knees buckled. She dropped her keys, heart pounding as she grabbed Lily's jacket. By the time she reached the hospital, Jamal was pacing the waiting room like a caged animal. They said it was her heart, he muttered. She's stable, but, Maya pressed her hands to her face. Rosa Torres had been the rock of their family, the one who patched scraped knees, cooked pots of soup, whispered prayers at night. Now she was lying in a hospital bed, pale and frail. When the doctor came out, his voice was clinical but kind. She'll need medication and rest. Possibly a procedure down the line. Maya's mind spun. More bills. More responsibilities. More weight on shoulders already breaking. That night, while Jamal dozed in a waiting chair and Lily slept curled against her, Maya sat by her mother's bedside. Rosa stirred, opening tired eyes. Mija, she whispered. Don't carry everything. Share it. Maya squeezed her mother's hand, fighting back tears. I don't know how. Learn, Rosa murmured, before drifting back to sleep. A week later, Maya found herself in a sleek glass building downtown, standing before a panel of venture capitalists. Her prototype sat on the table, wires exposed, casing unfinished. She had rehearsed her pitch 100 times, but her voice still trembled as she spoke. It's a portable diagnostic device, she explained, designed for clinics without access to labs. It can detect infections in minutes. The investors exchanged glances. One leaned forward, his suit immaculate. Impressive in theory. But what's your market? Where's your scalability? Maya swallowed. This isn't about market share. It's about saving lives. Another investor smirked. That's not a business model. The rejection was swift, polite, and devastating. As she walked out, clutching the prototype like a lifeline, humiliation burned in her chest. She wanted to scream. To cry. To quit. Instead, she called Aisha. They said no, she whispered. Good, Aisha replied. Maya blinked. Good? Yes. Because now we know exactly what we're up against. And we'll find someone who believes in more than profit. Maya closed her eyes, letting the words steady her. At school, Jamal's students were restless, their energy chaotic. The robotics program was officially cancelled, and Darian hadn't shown up for a week. That afternoon, Jamal found the boy sitting alone on the bleachers behind the gym. Skipping class? Jamal asked, sitting beside him. Darian shrugged. What's the point? The point, Jamal said carefully, is that you're smart. Smarter than half the kids I've taught. You don't get to throw that away. Darian kicked at the dirt. Smart doesn't pay rent. My mom's working doubles, and I'm babysitting my little brothers. Maybe school isn't for me. Jamal felt a surge of helpless anger. He wanted to promise things he couldn't deliver, resources, programs, opportunities. But all he had was himself. Listen, he said finally. My sister's building something. Something big. And when it works, kids like you are going to see that science isn't just for rich schools. But I need you to keep showing up, Darian. Can you do that? Darian hesitated, then nodded slightly. That night, Jamal visited Maya again. He found her asleep at the table, head resting on her arms, prototype beside her. For a long moment, he just looked at her, his stubborn, brilliant sister carrying the world on her shoulders. Then he whispered into the silence, I'll help you. However I can. The garage smelled like solder, coffee, and late promises. Aisha flicked on the box fan, and its rattle joined the chorus of the city, a siren 2 blocks over, a bus braking, a dog announcing itself to every passing shadow. Maya tightened the strap on her wrist brace and peered through a loop at the photodiodes embedded along the inner rim of the prototype's test chamber. The casing was still 3D printed, the seams slightly scalloped, but the guts were clean, thin film microheaters, a capillary cartridge that spun like a record, and the tiny board she and Aisha had reworked twice since midnight. Again, Maya said, voice low. Aisha set the sample cartridge, hands steady the way a violinist's would be before a hard movement. The new buffer that Aisha had insisted on, half her old advisor's formula, half her own stubbornness, glistened against the etched channels like river water over slate. Maya watched the readout. The graph trembled, as if poised to run, then climbed. Lily's cough from the doorway was a soft old man cough in a small girl's throat. Maya's head snapped up. Lily stood in her pajamas under Rose's cardigan, the cuff swallowing her hands. Mom, she said, lifting a lunchbox. My science snacks. You're supposed to be asleep, Maya said, but it came out as a plea. She glanced at the graph. It was still rising, cleaner than the previous drift, the baseline tighter. Baby, come sit, careful, wires. Lily patted over, solemn. She had insisted on science snacks for tonight, sliced apples, saltines, 3 gummy bears sorted by color. Can I push the blue button? She asked. Aisha looked at Maya. It's ready. Maya pointed. The blue one. Gentle. Lily pressed it with ceremonial gravity. The microheater sequence initiated, the capillary in the cartridge purred. Aisha murmured, come on, under her breath as if coaxing a shy bird. On screen, the fluorescence curve leapt, then plateaued. Noise dropped out of the signal like a tide retreating. That's not noise, Maya whispered. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. She scrapped the default algorithm and ran her own code, something she'd sketched at dawn on a napkin when anxiety had a face. Aisha, look at the shoulder at 15, 3 minutes. Aisha leaned in. That isn't the target marker. It's not, Maya said, pulse quickening. It's a co-occurring biomarker. A metabolite signature. I saw a ghost of it last week and thought it was contamination. Run it again, Aisha said. They ran it again. The shoulder rose where it rose before, patient and undeniable. It was like recognizing someone you'd only seen in profile. Once you saw them straight on, you couldn't pretend you didn't know them. Maya's breath shook. It's real. What does it mean? Lily asked. Maya crouched so her eyes were level with her daughter's. It means the machine is hearing something the doctors can't, yet. She felt her throat close. It means we can find what's hurting you faster. Rosa knocked gently on the frame. If the machine is hearing secrets, she said, smiling, maybe it will tell them nicely. Maya sat Lily on the stool, wiped the little crook of her elbow with alcohol, and drew a tiny sample with practiced hands. The garage light gilded the damp tendrils of Lily's hair. Her daughter watched the cartridge spin as if it were a music box. The readout painted the truth in light. The known marker hit, then that shoulder again, stronger on a live sample than any bench concoction. Maya's head filled with the dry, clean hum of science when it stops being theory and starts being handhold. There, she said, and the word was half wonder, half prayer. Aisha squeezed her shoulder. You found it. We found it, Maya corrected, because she had learned the hard way how much damage a singular pronoun could do. Rosa dabbed her eyes with the corner of her cardigan. Now you will tell the world? Now I'll get them to listen, Maya said, and felt, for the first time in weeks, a burn behind the ribs that wasn't fear. It was fiercer, warmer, something like defiance, something like hope tuned to a frequency she could finally hear. Her phone buzzed 3 times in quick succession. Unknown number. She let it go to voicemail, then another ping, an email. Subject, Health Equity Accelerator, shortlist invite. Aisha's mouth fell open as they read. The accelerator specialized in low-resource health tech. They had been sending monthly updates to a general inbox with more faith than expectation. Now, your submission is on the shortlist. Preliminary demo required in 72 hours. Top teams will pitch for seed funding on a live stream. Maya stared at the email so long the words blurred. 72 hours? Plenty of time, Aisha lied cheerfully, already pulling a new to-do list out of thin air. You clean the code. I'll tighten the optics. Jamal can help build a demo rig. Maya laughed, shaky and bright. The world moves slow until it doesn't. Lily slid a gummy bear into Maya's palm. For the machine, she said. So it knows it's brave. Maya swallowed. We'll tell it together. She clicked reply, we accept. And like that, the garage tilted into a future with edges. 72 hours could stretch into a year if you used them badly. Maya had learned to portion panic like a precious resource, a spoonful in the morning to get you moving, a spoonful at noon to keep you from quitting, none at night when it curdled sleep. The first day, they triaged ruthlessly. Aisha called in 2 favors, a laser cutter at the community makerspace after hours, and a loaner objective lens from a retired optics engineer who owed her for a recommendation letter years ago. Jamal showed up with a dolly, an extension cord, and 2 of his former students who now worked at a machine shop. Rosa cut fruit and made a pot of caldo verde and scolded anyone who skipped a bowl. Maya set up a test matrix on the whiteboard, buffers x temperatures x flow rates. She gave the co-occurring biomarker a working name, Sable, after the way it shadowed the primary signature like a sleek cat. She shouldn't have named it, but naming made it easier to talk to, and Maya was too tired to remember the old rules about objectivity and distance. Sable stayed, Sable sharpened the signal, Sable might tell a doctor when an infection was about to sprint instead of saunter. That mattered. By midnight, the demo casing was tighter. The makeshift lid, which had always reminded Maya of a lunchbox hinged on hope, now clicked with a snick that sounded like competence. The UI still looked like a grad student's side project, but the diagnostics page was clean, readable, and fast. Jamal's students wired an LED strip around the rim that pulsed when a run completed, more show than science, but Maya didn't mind. If glow got a room's attention long enough for data to speak, she'd glow the whole rig. When she finally stumbled home at dawn, Lily had fallen asleep on the couch with a sticker book splayed open like a map. Rosa had tucked a blanket around her and left a note, sleep 2 hours. Eat the oatmeal. I am not negotiating. Maya slept 97 minutes and woke with a start, full-formed ideas arriving as if someone had emailed her brain while she was offline. She scribbled on the margin of a wedding invitation Aisha had used as a coaster, preheat microheaters to 37°C for 90 seconds. Prevents false positives when ambient 20°C. Add coach mode to UI for lay clinic workers. She showered, ate the oatmeal like penance, and put on her only blazer, navy, sleeves too long, shoulders too tight. The fabric smelled faintly of dust and lemons. She looked at herself in the mirror and saw a woman held together by binder clips and will. Nice jacket, Lily said, patting in with sleep eyes and a triumphant cowlick. For the meeting, Maya said. Grown-up science, Lily nodded. Do you get a trophy? Maybe a sticker, Maya said. The kind that pays rent. Lily held out a hand. Then take mine. She peeled a star from the sticker book and pressed it to Maya's lapel. So they know. Maya kissed the top of her daughter's head. They'll know. The preliminary demo was on a video call. The accelerator's panel looked tiled and far away, as if they were a map of public faces, neat and flat. There was a public health doc with a streak of gray in her braid, a former nurse turned operations lead, a data scientist whose smile looked like it had been taught. Maya propped the laptop on a milk crate, angled the ring light, and swallowed. She walked them through the device, the sample path, the microfluidics, Sable. She lifted the casing to show the simplicity, on purpose, she stressed. I want this to survive dust and a bad Tuesday, she said. I want it to be taught in an hour and remembered in 10 minutes. Aisha handled the optics questions with cool, happy nerdiness. Jamal sat just out of frame, whiteboarding off camera like an air traffic controller. Your discovery of the secondary biomarker, the public health doc said, what's your confidence? High, Maya said, steady. But I won't oversell, we need broader sampling. The strength is not just the marker, it's the device's ability to detect both and flag the combo for escalating treatment in resource-limited settings. That's what changes outcomes. And cost? The operations lead asked. $500 per unit in small batches with our current BOM, Aisha said, with consumables under $2 per test. If we scale manufacturing, we can beat both. The data scientist leaned forward. We've seen 3 pitches this month that promised miracles. You didn't. Thank you for telling us what you can't do as clearly as what you can. When the call ended, the garage felt huge, as if the walls had leaned away to give them room to breathe. Maya braced herself on the table, dizzy with relief. A message pinged her phone, prelim accepted. You're invited to the in-person pitch. Aisha hooped. Jamal lifted Lily and spun her until they both squealed. Rosa crossed herself and then hugged the machine, which made Maya laugh until she cried. That night, while the others celebrated with tamales and soda from the corner store, Maya opened her laptop to a new email. The sender's name pinched something in her chest, Bennett, Harold. She clicked. Congratulations on the shortlist. I watched your demo. Interesting interpretation of known literature. Be careful not to overstate novelty. Reviewers don't take kindly to exuberance. He had attached a PDF, a preprint from a lab in Europe with a small paragraph about a metabolic shoulder observed in a narrow subset of cases. The figure legend hedged everything with maybes. It wasn't the same biomarker, it was adjacent, like mist compared to rain. Bennett knew that. He counted on her rage to cost her time. A distraction, Aisha declared, reading over her shoulder. Trash. It's a reminder, Maya said, jaw hard. He wants me small. We'll be precise instead. She wrote herself a note in caps on the front of her pitch deck, we are not reacting. We are reporting. Pitch prep colonized their days. Maya had never loved slides, to her, messages belonged in data and dirt and hands. But she also understood theater. The deck didn't just need graphs, it needed rhythm. It needed to start in blood and end in breath. She framed the problem in the first 2 slides, photos from the clinic, hallways painted brave green, a plastic chair whose leg had been repaired with tape and hope. Stats were a chorus but not the soloist, 1 in 5 infections misdiagnosed in low-resource settings, time to lab confirmation often 48 hours, mortality spikes when escalation lags. Then, the device. The camera loved it, her phone's portrait mode faked studio light. She filmed it whirring to life. She wrote a caption that she would later delete for being too soft, a small machine that pretends to be bigger than it is. Aisha argued for one dense technical slide, just one, so the panel couldn't accuse them of hand-waving. If they're bored for 30 seconds, I can live with it, she said. Better bored than suspicious. Maya agreed. She chose to write the risk slide herself. On it, she listed what could bite them: sampling bias in early testing, supply chain fragility for two components, the need for a training protocol that a clinic in chaos could actually use. She titled it Where This Can Break. Jamal watched her practice in the garage, arms folded. Your voice drops when you get to money, he said. Like you're apologizing for needing it. Maya blinked. Am I doing that? Yup. Say the number like you're asking for a wrench. 200,000, Maya said, and tried to put a wrench into it. Better, Jamal said. Lily, coloring at the workbench, looked up. Say it like a dragon. 200,000, Maya repeated, lower, rolling the consonants like she was guarding gold. Lily nodded. Now do your eyebrows. Maya arched them. The garage laughed. Aisha stayed late and told Maya a story she'd never told fully, the tent where she had studied under a lamp that ate batteries like candy, the day her brother coughed blood into a towel and no one knew what it meant because no one had anything to know with. A device like yours, she said, looking at the prototype, would have been a map in a storm. Maya took her hand. Then we're building it for him, too. They ran mock Cadenza. The worst questions were always the ones that sounded supportive while sawing at your ankles. What makes you think you, from here, can do what universities couldn't? Why hasn't someone else already made this? Maya memorized answers that weren't apologies, because we designed for constraint on purpose. Because the lab to clinic gap is a canyon and we built a bridge from both sides. The night before the pitch, Rosa laid out clothes for Lily like it was the first day of kindergarten: navy dress, white sweater, tiny star earrings. We will watch your mother on the television, she told Lily. We will clap in the living room, and the neighbors will hear and think we have company. Maya kissed her mother's cheek. You still look pale. You still look like my boss, Rosa retorted, then softened. I am well enough to clap. Maya tried to sleep and failed. The dark was full of slides clicking in a room she had never seen. At 2 a.m., she got up and padded to the kitchen. The window over the sink framed a tidy rectangle of city glow. She poured water and found her grandmother's diary where she'd left it on the table. The paper smelled faintly of dust and citrus peel. She opened at random. Today I taught a girl to set a stitch, and she taught me a new word for stubborn: steady, she called it. I think I like hers better. Steady, Maya said aloud to the empty kitchen. It felt like a hand on her back. The accelerator's venue was an old theater converted for tech, velvet and LED strips, gilding and bike racks. A row of cameras blinked red like small hungry eyes. Behind the stage curtain, the other teams paced, sipped water, adjusted mics. There was a drone startup, a telepsych platform with avatars that looked too cheerful, a company offering an AI triage that made Aisha whisper, God save us, which made Maya snort. A handler with a kind face clipped a pack to Maya's waist and fed the mic wire under her jacket. You good? He asked. No, Maya said, then smiled. Yes. In the front row, she spotted the public health doc from the video call, her gray streak catching the light. Next to her was a man whose posture screamed capital. 2 rows back, faces she didn't know. And, in the aisle, Harold Bennett, mouth tilted into a professional concern that read like a bruise. Maya's stomach dipped. She felt Aisha's hand between her shoulders, a firm press. You're the reason this room is interesting, Aisha murmured. Go make it earn you. They wheeled the demo on stage, a rolling cart with the device belted to it like a kid on a merry-go-round. Jamal had polished the 3D printed casing until it shone. The LED ring was set to pull soft blue, not rave. Next, the MC called. Health Equity semi-finalist, Cadenza Diagnostics. They had argued over names for a week. Cadenza had been Lily's suggestion, the cool part in music where someone gets to show off. Maya stepped into the light. The stage wasn't big, but it felt like sky. The spotlight warmed the top of her head, her hands went cool. She breathed. She didn't start with stats. She started with the clinic, a story about a nurse who had apologized for not having a printer, as if the lack were personal. She let the story lower the room's shoulders. Then she slid data under it like a floor. The slides moved with her, disciplined. When she reached Sable, she felt the attention sharpen, a collective lean forward. This secondary marker, Maya said, is not a magic trick. It's a flag. When it rises with the primary, outcomes worsen unless escalation is fast. The device doesn't just tell you what is, it nudges you toward what to do. She placed a cartridge in the machine. The camera operator zoomed, the feed on the big screen framed the cartridge like a protagonist. The LED ring pulsed. They were saying for a few seconds, and then the UI flashed a result. A hush traveled the theater. A good hush. Maya swallowed. With your support, she said, voice steady, we can move from a dozen devices to 100, into 5 clinics, with a training protocol we can teach in a day. We're asking for $200,000, and we're accountable for, she ticked the milestones, manufacturing, validation with 3 partners, and a data-sharing plan stewarded by a board that includes clinicians from the communities we serve. She finished and there was a beat, a divine, terrifying beat where the air itself seemed to vote. Then applause, not thunderous, but real. She let herself smile. The MC nodded to the panel. The first question came from the man whose posture had said capital. Tell me about failure modes. What happens when a device breaks 2 days into a field deployment? We built it so it breaks politely, Maya said, and the room chuckled. Modular components, simple swap-out path, and we ship redundancies. We also designed it so that when it fails, it says so, clearly. No pretending. The public health doc asked about sampling, the operations lead about procurement. Maya answered. The data scientist asked about Sable's spec, its sensitivity, its specificity, and Maya walked him through curves and cohorts without swagger. Then Bennett's hand went up from the aisle. The MC hummed. We're taking questions from the panel first, he said, deferent to form. But Bennett had already stood. Excuse me, he said, projecting. Harold Bennett. I want to congratulate Ms. Torres. He smiled at Maya as if they were sharing a private joke. I do wonder, however, about her claim to novelty with respect to the so-called secondary marker. Some might say the literature, he held up a sheaf of paper like a priest with scripture, has noted similar behaviors. Maya's mouth went dry. The MC blinked. The room tilted. Aisha went statue still behind the curtain. Jamal's hands clenched. Maya forced herself to nod as if invited to a picnic. Thank you, Dr. Bennett. She kept her voice gentle. And thank you for bringing the paper. I've read it. She clicked the clicker, her slide jumped to a new appendix she had added at 3 a.m. because fear made her thorough. 2 plots appeared, the European preprints anemia of a curve, their own, broad-backed and honest. This preprint observes a faint shoulder in a narrow subset, Maya said, calm. We validated a distinct metabolite signature correlated with bad outcomes across a more diverse sample. Our method of detection differs, as does the strength of the effect and the implication for triage. She pointed to a footnote. We submitted our own data to a community preprint server and invited external replication. This isn't about owning a secret. It's about sharing one quickly and responsibly. Bennett held the look 3 seconds too long. Then he sat. The public health doc smiled with her eyes. The data scientist scribbled something vigorous. The room relaxed, as if a storm had threatened, then blown past. Any further questions from the panel? The MC asked. Just one, the operations lead said. When do you start? We already did, Maya said softly, and the laugh that rolled through the theater felt like agreement more than amusement. They didn't win, not immediately. The accelerator had its rituals, votes tallied, numbers rumored, judges conferring in a glass room that looked like a terrarium for rare birds. Teams pressed hands to their own mouths or each other's shoulders. When the MC returned, his smile was diplomatic. He named a drone company for a smaller logistics prize, the Telepsych Avatar people for an integration grant. Maya felt adrenaline curdle into a sour calm. And now, he said, our seed grant, $200,000, to a team whose science, humility, and design for constraint impressed every single one of us. He paused, milking theater because theater was what donors bought. Cadenza Diagnostics. For a second, Maya simply didn't move. Aisha's shout broke first, Jamal's hand crushed Maya's shoulder and then pushed, not hard but urgent, as if to nudge fate along. Maya stepped forward into sound. The applause wasn't thunder, it was something better, layered, clapped by hands that had built things and broken them and tried again. A woman with a braided streak handed Maya an envelope that looked anachronistic, heavy with symbolism. Cameras leaned in to eat her face. Maya's mouth had gone wobbly. She forced it into a smile and lifted the mic. Thank you, she said, which wasn't enough. We promised we wouldn't overstate novelty, and I won't start now. We have work to do and neighbors to do it with. I grew up 5 bus stops from here. My daughter is 5. I want her friends to live in a city where a clinic doesn't have to apologize for the lack of a printer, because a lack of a printer can kill you when you need a lab result. We'll spend this money like we're going to run into you at the grocery store. The room laughed and hummed. The music swelled, because events love to push feelings into crescendos. Maya blinked into the lights and thought, steady. Backstage, she finally breathed. Aisha pressed her forehead to Maya's, sweaty and giddy. You were a mountain. I was a woman who wanted to vomit, Maya said, laughing. Where's my kid? I want to show her the envelope. She's at home, glued to the TV, Jamal said, holding up his phone to show Rosa's living room selfie, Lily on the couch, star earrings, and all, clapping so hard her hands blurred. We knew it Rosa had written in all caps above her own grin. They walked out into afternoon sun that felt new. On the street, a kid riding a scooter saw the phone core with Cadenza printed on it and shouted, cool robot. Aisha yelled back, cool health robot. At the corner, under a mural of a girl reading a book so big it doubled as a blanket, Maya's knees softened. Not with collapse, more like an adjustment to gravity she hadn't known she'd been fighting. Around her, the city carried on, buses sighed, somebody argued lovingly about onions versus scallions on hot dogs, a boombox far off stitched a bass line under it all. Her phone buzzed. Messages stacked like folded napkins, congratulations from people she knew, people she didn't, a short text from the public health doc, we'll help with partners, a 3-word missive from Darian, via Jamal, you crushed it. There was one from an unknown number, you were right. H. She stared at it, then deleted it without saving the contact. She would not collect apologies like trophies. Okay, Aisha said, exhaling a laugh. Back to the garage? Back to the garage, Maya echoed. The money was oxygen, but oxygen didn't build itself into a lung. There were purchase orders to place, a manufacturing partner to finalize, a training protocol to distill into something you could teach in a clinic with a line out the door and a nurse who hadn't had lunch. There were also, somehow, cupcakes, a bakery box Aisha had manifested with a phone call. They took the long way home so they could walk under the L and let the train's thunder shake the dust out of their hair. The garage door stuck as it always did, Jamal hip-checked it open. Inside, the machine sat on the bench, blinking its patient blue. Maya touched the lid, a gesture part blessing, part gratitude. Rosa stood at the kitchen door, Lily on her hip despite being far too old for that. We saw, Rosa said, and then started to cry and laugh at once. Lily wriggled free and ran, almost colliding with the demo cart. You won the sticker money, she yelled. Maya crouched, caught her, breathed in the shampoo and the child. We did. Does that mean tacos? Lily asked, practical. It means tacos and roof repair and health insurance and paying Jamal's students for the hours they worked like real adults, Aisha said, ticking off promises on her fingers. It means, Rosa said, voice thick, that a room believed a girl from our kitchen. Maya stood and let the weight of the day collect in her bones. Not collapse, accumulation. On the whiteboard, where Jamal had tracked buffer experiments, Maya wrote in the corner in big, messy letters, not a defendant. A table. She didn't remember writing it, but her grandmother's phrasing had migrated across time like a migrating bird that knew a house by its roofline. They ate tacos off paper plates that went limp under salsa. Lily got guacamole in her hair and declared it a victory crown. Jamal gave a dignity speech that made everyone roll their eyes and then hug him anyway. Maya poured Rosa a small glass of wine and took one sip of her own and felt it loosen the day just enough. Later, after they'd wiped counters and turned off fans and put the machine to sleep, Maya stood by the back door and looked at the city stitched in light. Her phone vibrated once more. It was a calendar reminder she had made months ago and forgotten to delete, prototype review with Bennett. She laughed, not unkindly, and pressed hold and delete until the past stopped vibrating. In Lily's room, a sticker chart waited, patient and ridiculous. Maya peeled a star and pressed it into the square for Big Brave Thing. Then she added a new row with a blank label. What's that one for? Lily asked, already half asleep. For tomorrow, Maya said, tucking the blanket under her daughter's chin. We have a lot of tomorrows to label. She closed the door and leaned her forehead against the wood. The silence wasn't empty, it was full of engine noise and the soft click of something aligning. She thought of her mother in the hospital saying share it, of Aisha's brother, of Darian with his half-built robot and full-grown grit, of a nurse apologizing for a missing printer, of a device that could hear secrets and whisper them in time to do something about them. Steady, she said into the house. We start again. And the house, the garage, the city, everything, seemed to nod. Money in an account was not money in a machine. Within 48 hours of the pitch, Maya was already drowning in logistics. The $200,000 seed grant was a number that meant wires, contracts, receipts, and the sharp little teeth of taxes. Aisha drew up a spreadsheet that stretched like a scroll across the screen: consumables, bulk orders, injection molding, casing color options. Maya vetoed hot pink with regret: insurance, liability coverage, payroll. Feels like Monopoly, but the pieces are people's lives, Jamal muttered, flipping through supplier quotes. The first order went sideways immediately. The specialty polymer tubing that carried the samples was backordered for 12 weeks. The supplier suggested alternatives that were 3 times the cost. We'll cannibalize stock from old lab kits, Aisha decided, already typing. It buys us 6 weeks. They toured 2 local machine shops before finding one that smelled like motor oil and patience. The owner, Mr. Diaz, was a barrel-chested man with a pencil tucked behind his ear. He tapped the prototype with a scarred finger. You're telling me this thing saves lives? That's the plan, Maya said. He squinted, then barked at a teenager sweeping the floor. Miguel. Clear Bay 3. These women are bringing us work. Maya blinked. Just like that? Diaz shrugged. If you can build ventilators in a war, you can build this in Baltimore. You got drawings? Aisha handed him CAD files like holy texts. That night, Maya came home with grease on her blazer and exhaustion on her skin. Lily was waiting with crayons. She had drawn a picture of the device with stick figures cheering around it. At the top, in blocky letters, science wins. Maya tacked it on the fridge and thought, if only procurement moved by crayon. The first deployment was a small neighborhood clinic run by Dr. Alvarez, a soft-spoken man with a mustache that twitched when he smiled. The waiting room had 3 chairs with mismatched upholstery, a water cooler that rattled, and posters curling off the walls. When Maya wheeled in the prototype, wrapped like a fragile heirloom, nurses peeked out of doorways. Is that the robot? One whispered. It's a tool, Maya corrected gently. A very polite one. Training day was chaos. The power flickered twice. One nurse, Carmen, insisted she had no time for toys. Another, Diego, grinned at the glowing LED ring like it was a Christmas tree. Maya kept her voice steady. You don't have to love it. You just have to let it help. They ran dummy samples. The machine hummed and spat out results with clinical indifference. Carmen's skepticism cracked when the UI translated raw numbers into a simple traffic light code: green, yellow, red. Even my abuela could read that, Carmen admitted. Exactly, Maya said. By the end of the week, the clinic had logged 20 trial runs. On the 21st, a boy with a fever came in. Maya stood in the corner, heart pounding, as Diego slid the cartridge into place. The screen lit up, red. Dr. Alvarez's mustache twitched. We escalate immediately. Later that night, Maya sat in her car outside the clinic and cried until the steering wheel smelled of salt. Not everyone was thrilled. The local newspaper ran a headline: Garage Gadget Promises Miracles, but at what risk? The article quoted an anonymous former supervisor warning against unverified tech in fragile communities. Maya didn't need to guess who. At the grocery store, an older woman squinted at Maya's Cadenza badge and said, So you're the girl experimenting on sick kids? Maya bit down on her first response. I'm the girl making sure doctors get answers faster, she said instead. At night, trolls found her inbox. Play scientist somewhere else. Don't use our children as lab rats. She slammed her laptop shut. Rosa touched her hand. They said the same about polio vaccines, her mother whispered. Fear speaks loudest before truth grows legs. Jamal was less patient. You should sue Bennett for slander. Maya shook her head. No. We'll outlast him with data, not lawsuits. Aisha was blunt. Then we need bigger numbers. So they doubled trial runs, logged everything, and uploaded anonymized results to an open database. The more they shared, the harder it became to dismiss them as reckless. Still, Maya woke every night to the sound of phantom barking dogs, phantom trolls, phantom critics. She wondered if resilience had a shelf life. In the middle of manufacturing chaos, Rosa collapsed while folding laundry. The ER doctor called it exhaustion, compounded by untreated hypertension. Maya sat by her hospital bed, guilt gnawing. You need rest, she said. So do you, Rosa retorted, voice thin but fierce. But you keep going, and so will I. Jamal stepped in. I'll take Mom this week. You focus on the device. Maya shook her head. No, you've got school, family doesn't divide into projects, Maya, he snapped. We're not your side hustle. The words stung because they were true. She had been triaging love-like tasks on a whiteboard. That night, she read Lily a bedtime story and promised herself not to miss more. Lily yawned mid-sentence and said, Mommy, when you fix the machine, can you fix you too? Maya kissed her forehead. Working on it. 3 weeks later, a rural clinic piloting the device called with an emergency. A young mother named Isabel had arrived with fever and confusion. The clinic doctor ran a test on Cadenza. The result blazed red. They escalated immediately, transferring Isabel to a hospital where she was diagnosed with sepsis. She survived. The doctor emailed a single line, without your device, she would have died. Maya read it aloud in the garage. Silence followed, heavy and holy. Then Rosa crossed herself. Jamal whispered, that's 1. Lily clapped her hands. That's more than 0. Maya wrote the sentence on the whiteboard in thick marker. Then she underlined it twice until the ink squeaked. On a gray Tuesday, the garage lab felt more like a control tower than a workshop. Monitors blinked telemetry from the 3 pilot sites, Alvarez Clinic in the city, a rural outpost in Pine Ridge, and a coastal clinic 2 counties south. Each cartridge run sent a tiny heartbeat across the screen, voltage draw, temperature drift, pressure curve, optical readout, a quiet, steady pulse. Aisha zoomed in on a jagged line. We're getting intermittent noise on the optic sensor in Pine Ridge. Every third run. Environmental? Jamal asked, balancing a tray of empanadas Rosa had made that morning. He set them beside the microscope, ignoring Maya's look. Unclear, Aisha said. Could be dust, could be ambient light, could be sabotage. Maya almost laughed. Let's not manufacture drama. Aisha didn't smile. Manufacture drama? No. But someone is manufacturing doubt. She clicked open an attachment that had dropped into the team email an hour earlier. Anonymized field analysis. The PDF logo was a stylized double helix she recognized from Bennett's old lab. The text was worse. Independent review suggests that the Cadenza unit exhibits unacceptable variance in signal-to-noise at clinically relevant thresholds. Jamal whistled, low. He really can't let you live. Maya reread the paragraph, jaw tight. The independent review cited a dataset almost identical to their Pine Ridge telemetry, a dataset no one outside their team and the clinic should have. Leak, she said, voice flat. Aisha's fingers drummed. Clinic side? Or our side? Our side is 3 people and a 7-year-old who speaks in crayon, Maya said. So clinic. She dialed Pine Ridge, her free hand twirling a screwdriver she didn't need. Nurse manager Etta picked up, her warm voice scratchy with afternoon fatigue. Etta, hey, I'm seeing noise on your optic channel. Any chance the unit's moved? Maya asked. Etta sighed. Moved? Honey, last night I found it perched on a stool because someone said the countertop felt too wobbly for miracles. I moved it back. What noise? Spikes in signal. It could be elevator lights in the hallway, could be dust, could be anything new in the room. LED bulbs? UV sterilizer? Window shade open? Oh, we did replace the overhead fluorescents with those strip lights the supplier donated, Etta said. They hum like old refrigerators. Aisha made a cutting motion in the air. Maya nodded into the phone. Try switching them off during runs. And Etta, a heads up. We think your data might have leaked. A beat of silence. Then, Steele. Not my people. Did you have any outside consultants in the last week? Maya asked gently. Just some fellow with a clipboard, said he was doing a community evaluation for equitable technology adoption. Etta's tone made the quotation marks audible. Asked a lot of questions. Didn't like my answers. Name? He called himself Ron. Wore a badge with a logo like a pretzel. Or a snake. You know I don't like snakes. The helix, Maya thought. Thanks, Etta. We'll come by with a light shield and a filter cap. And I'll bring donuts. Etta snorted. Bring the good kind. Not those powdered ones that taste like chalk. After she hung up, Maya stared at the Bennett PDF again. The variance allegation hinged on optical noise, a fixable nuisance dressed up as a fatal flaw. She breathed in. Breathed out. Okay. We don't fire back. We fix. We ship a shield. We document before and after variance. And we lock down access, Aisha added. If Bennett wants to play dirty, we play clean, loudly. Rosa appeared at the doorway, wiping her hands on a dish towel. When the neighbor's dog barks, you don't bark back, she said. You close your window and put on music. Jamal raised an empanada. To music. Later, Maya said. We've got light to kill. The next morning, Maya drove to Pine Ridge with a trunk full of light baffles, a vacuum pump, and a pink box of donuts heavy enough to qualify as a kettlebell. The clinic sat at the edge of town, a squat rectangle with faded siding and a wind-lashed sign. Inside, the air smelled faintly of bleach and coffee. Etta met her with a hug that was half apology and half welcome. You brought the good kind, she said, peeking into the box. 6 maple bars, 2 chocolate sprinkles, for old fashions, and a sacrificial jelly, Maya recited. Let's fix your star machine. They rolled the Cadenza unit to a corner, away from the new LED strips. Maya installed the light baffle, a matte black hood that slid over the optical well, while Etta narrated the clinic's morning: farmer with a cut hand, toddler with a cough, an elder who walked in to say she felt squirrely but left after 3 cups of water and a chat. Do you know a man named Ron? Maya asked, feigning casual. Ron with a nose? I called him that because he kept sniffing like the building smelled wrong, Etta said. He asked who trained us, what we do if the screen says red, if we know how to call an ambulance. I said, sir, I've been calling ambulances longer than you've been starching that shirt. Maya couldn't help smiling. He take photos? Sure did. Of the unit. And the room. I told him he could take a photo of me holding a donut if he wanted, because he sure wasn't getting patient charts, Etta said. Looked mad about that. Maya tightened the baffle set screws and mounted a filter cap she and Aisha had printed the night before to shield the LED sensor from stray wavelengths. How about we run a set, she asked. We'll log noise before and after we kill the strip lights. Etta called over an MA and a volunteer EMT who were curious. They ran 3 dummies under current conditions, then flicked the strip switches off and ran 3 more under the baffle. On Maya's laptop, the variant shrank like a snail retracting. She printed the overlay graph, the curve snapped into a clean, thin line. Pretty, Etta said. You gonna hang that on a fridge? On the internet, Maya said. Open access. Also known as the big fridge. Make sure you spell my name right, Etta said, pointing. 1 T, 2 T's, the Lord and DMV can't agree. Maya laughed for the first time that week. Outside, the wind was picking up. On the way out, she noticed a battered Honda Civic with a parking permit that read Equitech Observations and a familiar Helix logo. The driver's seat held a clipboard with a form that looked exactly like their intake training checklist, minus the part that said ask permission. She took a photo. Then she let the air out of her lungs and left the tire alone. She thought of Lily's crayon banner, Science Wins. It didn't say Petty Revenge Wins. Back at the garage, Aisha uploaded the Pine Ridge graphs to their public dashboard with a measured note on environmental noise and mitigation, thanking Etta and the team. Within an hour, the Bennett PDF became yesterday's news in the niche world of medical device Twitter. Their quiet, boring data had killed a loud, exciting rumor. Donuts and documentation, Jamal said. You should run for office. Absolutely not, Maya said, closing her laptop. I'd rather fight LEDs. Scaling meant breaking, and sometimes what broke wasn't plastic. 3 weeks later, a unit at the coastal clinic failed mid-run. The device froze with a cartridge halfway ejected, and the UI displayed an error code Maya had never seen, E41, thermal runaway. The clinic called in a panic. The patient was a pregnant woman running a fever. Every minute thudded against the walls. I'm on my way, Maya said, already reaching for her keys. No, Aisha said, palm out. We remote in. We triage. We don't waste 40 minutes on the road if we can recover in 5. Maya swallowed the old instinct to sprint. Okay. Put the unit in maintenance mode, she told the nurse over speaker. Hold the power for 8 seconds. Good. Now, she pulled up the hardware console. Temperatures looked normal now. The error suggested a transient spike, not sustained heat. Check the fan intake, Maya said, forcing calm. Is anything blocking it? A pamphlet? A jacket? The nurse glanced down. A scarf. Someone tossed a scarf and it slid under. Aisha pinched the bridge of her nose. The fan choked. Maya heard her own voice from a distance. Clear the scarf. Cold start. Eject the cartridge manually, yes, I'll walk you through it. Okay. Now rerun with a fresh cartridge. I know, I'm sorry. She could hear the tremor in the nurse's breath and tried to still her own. You've got this. 2 minutes stretched like taffy. On the video feed, the unit's ring light cycled a calm blue, then green. The new run completed. The result flashed, yellow, not red, but not green. The clinic escalated to monitoring and antibiotics. Maya finally exhaled, realized her shoulders hurt, and that she had been braced like a boxer. She and Aisha stared at the console afterward, a room of zeros and ones and too much silence. We need a hardware interlock, Aisha said at last. A physical grill on the intake. You can't block it with a scarf if you can't reach it. We also need a human interlock, Maya said. Clear instructions. A sticker that says do not block this vent or the magic box will turn into a toaster. Jamal poked his head in. Engineering solution plus teaching solution, he said. My kind of sandwich. Maya rubbed her temples. She could already hear Bennett's voice in her head, amateur hour. She shut that door. Okay. We print a grill design tonight. We ship by morning with the new quick start card. That night, after Lily was asleep, Rosa made Maya tea and massaged her daughter's scalp the way she had when Maya was 11 and math felt like a foreign planet. You can do hard things, she said, as if reading a line from a book she kept in her apron pocket. You just can't do them at once. Maya whispered, I almost broke. Rosa kissed her hair. Then you did not. With the grill in place and error rates back to baseline, the weeks blurred into the kind of monotony that saves lives: procurement calls, ISO 13485 checklists, sterilization certificates, calibration logs. Mr. Diaz's shop grew used to the click and whir of their small assembly line. Miguel, the teenager with the broom, started staying late to assemble submodules. He asked questions shyly, then not shyly at all. Why is the cartridge cap made of polycarbonate, not ABS, he asked, a pencil behind his ear to mimic the boss. Heat resistance and optical clarity, Maya said. Also, ABS smells like a burped tire when you machine it. Miguel laughed. You talk like my shop teacher. That a compliment? Big one, he said. Maya added hire Miguel part-time to her legal pad of to-dos, then flipped a page to her other columns, the ones that lived outside of device lives. Keep, Lily bedtime, Thursday arroz con pollo with mom, Saturday laundromat with Jambox music. Open, community mentorship. Women in innovation nights. A clinic roundtable with nurses as the speakers, not the props. On the first mentorship night, a half-dozen middle school girls trickled into the garage, wide-eyed and whispering. Lily wore a cardboard badge that said assistant and took attendance with serious authority. Tonight, Maya said, we're going to take apart a broken blender and put it back together wrong and then right. This is called reverse engineering. Also called, revenge for all the appliances that quit on your mother. They laughed, and the sound ran around the cinderblock walls like a bright thing. Jamal brewed cocoa on a hot plate. Aisha showed them how to label parts with painter's tape. Rosa flitted with Tupperware like a benevolent bee. The blender came apart, screws rolling like silver beetles, and the girls leaned close with the reverence other kids reserved for kittens and celebrity sightings. Can we name the blender? One asked. You may, Maya said. You may also fire me if it explodes. They named it Gloria. Gloria did not explode. Afterward, a mother in a scrub top tugged Maya aside. My daughter hasn't stopped talking about science since the flyer came home, she said, eyes shining. She thinks differently now. Maya swallowed a lump. So do I. Later that night, after the girls left with cocoa mustaches and a new respect for gaskets, Jamal lingered by the door. I think I figured out how to write a grant for the mentorship program, he said. We can frame it as pipeline support for local clinics, future MAs, future techs, future engineers. Let's call it Porch Labs, Maya said, surprising herself. Where science happens close to home. Jamal grinned. You naming things now? Only the ones I love, she said. The nonprofit accelerator announced a public showcase. Each cohort had to present a live field trial stream to donors and clinic partners. A glove and dagger demo, Bennett would have crowed, except it wasn't a trap. It was accountability in daylight. Maya's team drew the coastal clinic, the one that had scarfed the vent and given them a scare. Good. She wanted to show the fix, show the learning curve, show the humanity that turned errors into procedures. The day of the stream, the clinic closed for an hour. Aisha verified firmware. Etta's counterpart, a nurse named Val, tidied the test nook like she was staging a tiny apartment for sale. Someone taped a handwritten sign to the door. Yes, we're live on the internet. No, we can't make you famous. Maya stood off camera with a mic pinned to her collarbone, fingers buzzing with electric ants. The host, an earnest man in an earnest blazer, smiled into the lens. We're here with Cadenza Diagnostics to watch their device run, in real clinic conditions, with real staff. Not real patients, Val said pointedly. De-identified and consented patients. Don't make me call the board. The host blinked. Correct. We take privacy seriously. He turned to Maya. You've said your device is as much about workflow as it is about hardware. Exactly, Maya said. Anyone can print a box. It's harder to make a box that wedges into a Tuesday. Val slid a cartridge in and narrated, deliberately slow, like Mr. Rogers showing how zippers work. Step 1, we scan the barcode. Step 2, we place the sample. Step 3, we don't drape our scarves on the vent, because we read the card. The feed showed a close-up of the new grill and a big sticker with a cartoon scarf and a red circle slash. The chat scrolled with laughing emojis and a dozen been their comments from nurses with screen names like Shot Queen and Calibrator Cat. The run completed, the readout was green. Val nodded once, satisfied. She ran a second with an abnormal control to show the red state and the escalation protocol. She called the hospital liaison, who answered like he'd been rehearsing all week. Notice the lawyering, Jamal whispered in Maya's ear. A clinic prepared is a clinic calm. The host beamed. Seamless. Maya took the mic like a relay baton. We're not seamless, she said. We make seams that don't tear under stress. After the stream ended, an older man with a familiar mustache icon in his Twitter bio posted, impressive work. This is what careful iteration looks like. Dr. Alvarez. Then Etta, then half a dozen other clinicians chimed in with short, concrete stories, tiny case notes, as if the internet were a chart. Bennett tried a subtweet later about hype cycles and garage theatrics. By then, the thread had moved on to a nurse's hack for sorting cartridges with hair ties. Outnursed, Aisha said, giggling in a way Maya hadn't heard in months. My favorite genre. The first purchase order from a county health department landed on a Tuesday. 15 units, consumables for 3 months, and a request for Spanish language training modules. Maya sat down on the concrete floor when she read it, not because her legs failed but because sitting felt like the right distance from gravity. We did it, Jamal whispered. We started it, Maya corrected, eyes wet. Scaling was suddenly three-dimensional. Diaz's shop added a second shift. Miguel trained 2 friends. Aisha hired a quality engineer named Zuri who color-coded SOPs until the binders looked like a pack of Skittles. Rosa joined a caregiver co-op that gave her flexible hours and gave Lily's after-school routine a reliable spine. Maya stopped pretending she could be everywhere and started acting like she could build a team that could. At home, the legal pad on the entry table grew fatter, dog-eared and splattered with coffee rings. Fix, Bent Grill V2, optics gasket, multilingual UI strings. Keep, Wednesday Lego night, Friday empanadas, Sunday calls with the Pine Ridge crew even when there was nothing to report. Open, Porch Labs curriculum for 9th graders, a partnership with the library to host STEM nights, a microgrant fund for clinic hacks invented by nurses and MAs. One evening, as Lily colored at the kitchen table, she asked, Mom, what's a legacy? Maya stirred a pot and considered. The word tasted like stone and warm bread. It's the part of your work that keeps walking after you stop, she said. Like footprints that don't blow away. Like your machine? Lily asked. Like our machine, Maya said, and she meant it. Eda's adjustments, Val's blunt jokes, Aisha's firmware, Jamal's grants, Rose's tea, Miguel's careful hands, Zuri's tabs, Lily's drawings. A collective march. A week later, the rural clinic sent a photo of a bulletin board labeled Cadenza saves, patient initials, dates, and scribbled notes pinned like fluttering flags. Underneath, a card in a child's handwriting said, "Thank you for saving my mom." When Maya printed it and pinned it to the garage corkboard, Bennett sent a lawyerly email threatening to contest their use of the name Cadenza. "He can call his device Fugue," Jamal snorted. "Fugues run away." "Cadenza's resolve," Aisha said, mouth tilted. Maya didn't reply to Bennett. She replied to the county order with a delivery date and a thank you. She replied to Eda with a photo of the Cadenza saves board and a map emoji. She replied to Lily by taping her newest crayon drawing, this one of a blender named Gloria, above the bench. That Friday, Porch Labs hosted an intergenerational night. Jamal led the icebreaker. "Tell us who taught you your favorite skill," he said. An elderly man with a cane raised his hand. "My wife taught me how to fold fitted sheets," he said solemnly. The room applauded this magic. A teen with chipped black nail polish said, "My grandma taught me how to check a pulse and not panic." Eda, who had driven in on her day off, pointed at Maya. "This one taught me to turn off the dang LED lights," she said, and the room roared. Maya looked around and felt the sensation she'd been chasing but only sometimes caught, not victory, not even peace, but rightness. A right-sized life. After the chairs were stacked and Gloria the blender was retired with honors, Maya walked out to the porch with Lily. The evening smelled like cut grass and warm electronics. Across the street, a moth pinged against the bulb and then decided to try the moon instead. Lily leaned into her side. "Mom? When I grow up, can I be the boss of science?" Maya kissed the crown of her daughter's head, the familiar soft swirl where baby hair had once made a spiral like a galaxy. "You can be the keeper of science," she said. "And the sharer." "Okay," Lily said, considering. "I'll share it with everyone." "Good plan," Maya said. That's how legacies learn to run. The conference ballroom had the tired opulence of places that were once new, chandeliers too bright, carpet patterned to hide coffee stains, a dais skirted in navy. The banner behind the panel read Frontiers in Point-of-Care Diagnostics in a font that tried not to offend anyone. Maya clipped on a lapel mic and felt Aisha's fingers squeeze her shoulder, brief, electric, enough. The moderator rattled off bios. "We're joined by Dr. Greg Bennett," scattered applause, polite and thin, and Maya Torres, co-founder of Cadenza Diagnostics, warmer, curious, along with Dr. Klein from the FDA device office. Bennett smiled with the overbite of a man who practiced in a mirror. "Delighted." Maya nodded once. "Good to be here." The first questions were polite softballs about regulatory pathways and human factors. Maya kept her answers boring on purpose, the way pilots sound while landing. The moderator glanced at his tablet and said, "We've heard concern from some independent reviewers about optical variants with low-signal samples in uncontrolled environments." "Ms. Torres?" Bennett's mouth did a microscopic quirk. There it is, Maya thought, the loaded question. "Great question," Maya said, calm. "Environmental light can add noise to optical sensors. We saw it during our pilots, specifically when clinics installed LED strip lights that flicker at a frequency the sensor can see." She clicked her remote, the projector blinked up their Pine Ridge graph with and without the light baffle. The scene shrank to a fine line. "We designed a baffle and a filter cap. We shipped them along with a training card. Variance dropped to baseline. That's the work, you find the seam, you stitch it." Bennett leaned forward. "With respect, a fix she discovered after deployment suggests premature release." Maya breathed once. "With respect, it suggests a deliberate pilot and a rapid iteration loop, documented publicly. We didn't bury the problem. We published it. That's what communities deserve." The moderator let the silence stretch. Someone in the third row scribbled so hard their pen squeaked. Dr. Klein from the FDA cleared her throat. "For what it's worth, this is the behavior we encourage: identify signal perturbations, mitigate them, document mitigation, verify in the field. No device is immune to environment. The question is whether you observe and respond." Bennett's eye twitched. He pivoted. "There are also chatterings about thermal runaway. We suffocated a fan with a scarf," Maya said evenly. "We added a grill so that can't happen. We updated the quick start. We built a temp cutoff into firmware. And we posted the incident report with corrective actions. Anyone can read it." A hand shot up from the audience. The nurse manager from the coastal clinic, Val, did not wait to be called. She stood and held up a laminated quick start card like a talisman. "I was the scarf," she said. The ballroom chuckled. "They didn't blame me. They fixed it with hardware and instructions and respect. If you want tech that works in Tuesdays, ask us what Tuesday looks like." The applause started as a ripple, then pooled. Bennett tried to smile through it, but it hung badly on his face. After the panel, the hallway smelled like pastries and ambition. A young woman in a blazer too big for her approached Maya with wide eyes. "Thank you for saying we published it. We're so used to hiding seam stories." Maya took the young woman's card and wrote on the back with a borrowed pen, "Seams equals design points." She drew a little stitch. "Tell your boss you met a lady who keeps her stitches visible." Aisha joined, eyes dancing. "We survived," she said softly. Maya looked down at her hands and realized they weren't shaking. "We did more than that." Across the hall, Bennett muttered to a man with a helix pin, gesturing at his phone. Maya didn't go closer. She had learned how not to turn toward every barking dog. The purchase order's 15 units turned into 22 after a second county added 3 clinics and a mobile van. Diaz's shop throbbed with a sound like the ocean, CNC taps, the whine of torque drivers, the murmur of music from someone's phone. Zuri's SOP binders bred on a shelf, their tabs were now a rainbow so bright Lily called it the candy wall. And still, first batch meant first batch blues. On day 2 of assembly, the cartridge caps began cracking around a screw boss. Zuri circled the stall with a clipboard like an ornithologist. This is a stress concentrator, she said, tapping the tight fillet where the pillar met the wall. Polycarbonate can take a lot, but not a sharp corner plus over torque. Miguel, now in a black Cadenza t-shirt 2 sizes too big, looked stricken. I think I did it, he said. I tightened them until the driver clicked. Then the driver is the problem, Maya said. We set a lower torque. And we changed the CAD file. She turned to Aisha. Can you widen the fillet and thicken the boss by 0.5 millimeter? On it, Aisha said, already halfway to her laptop. Also, Maya added, we order spare caps. Assume a 10% breakage rate. Plan for real life. Mr. Diaz walked over wiping his hands. My father used to say, the first dozen teaches you what the next 100 want. Smart father, Maya said. He also said never eat the cafeteria fish, Diaz added. But the first one was pretty good. By Friday, the new caps were on the line and the driver torque was set to grandma tight, which Zuri defined precisely. Maya watched Miguel teach 2 newer hires how to seat the gasket without twisting it, using a trick with a fingernail and a breath. He was careful, and he was proud of being careful. Maya found herself blinking too much and blamed the acetone in the air. At lunch, Jamal arrived with envelopes. News, he said, waving them like a street magician. The county wants to film a training video in Spanish and English. And, he paused for effect, the library wants to host Porch Labs as a monthly program. They're offering the community room plus a small stipend for materials. Rosa clapped like a girl. Of course the library is the church. Maya leaned against a pallet of phone trays and let the news soak. We'll need to hire a part-time coordinator, she said. Jamal grinned. I've got a candidate. Remember Tiana, the high school senior who rebuilt Gloria's gear mesh? She's a natural wrangler. And she wrote a proposal. He handed over a stapled packet with headings and bullet points that made Maya's heart do a small turn. This child had a spreadsheet in her bones. Hire her, Maya said. Please. That evening, Maya stood in the doorway of the shop while the last of the shift drifted out into the blue. The machines powered down one by one, the quiet arriving in steps. She rubbed a fingerprint off the side of the chassis and saw her face, distorted in the brushed steel, smiling without her permission. The first save happened on a Thursday, the kind of day where traffic and coffee both conspire against you. At Alvarez Clinic, a 7-year-old boy named Marco came in feverish and glassy-eyed. His mother spoke Spanish fast with fear, the MA translated and took a sample. The unit hummed. The readout, read. The biomarker combination with the new threshold set by Maya and Aisha pointed to a rare bacterial infection that could spiral in hours. Call the hospital liaison, the nurse said, voice steady and bright. The protocols they had rehearsed in a hallway became choreography. An hour later, Marco had 4 antibiotics and a pediatric bed. The next day, his mother sent a voice note to the clinic in Spanish, sobbing and laughing in the same breath, calling everyone there unhells. Val forwarded the note to Maya with a play with tissues nearby warning. Maya and Aisha listened in the garage. Rosa listened at the sink and then pretended she wasn't. Lily stopped coloring to say, the angels are the machine and the people. Exactly, Maya whispered. Especially the people. The second save was Messier. At the coastal clinic, a middle-aged man rolled in sweaty and shaking. He'd been fighting a bug 4 days. The unit read green. The nurse relaxed. So did the physician assistant. But something about the man's color, ashen and waxy, plucked a string in the PA's memory. She ordered a manual fingerstick and a basic metabolic panel. The glucose reading clipped the edge of the screen, 432. The man wasn't fighting a bug. He was tumbling into DKA. After they stabilized him, the PA called Maya. Your machine did its job, she said, a little breathless. But my brain did another job. I want to make sure we teach both. We will, Maya said immediately. We seem to be accidentally good at reminding people that tech doesn't replace eyes. She scribbled notes, add second look prompt to green results when specific symptoms present, add a module to the training that says double checks are a form of courage, not doubt. That night, their porch filled with bodies and bowls, Porch Labs night. In the lesson, Jamal held up 2 cards, one green, one red, both the size of playing cards. He asked the teens to hold up the card that matched how confident they felt in their solution to a circuit puzzle. Green is I'm pretty sure. Red is I'm not sure yet, he said. Notice I didn't say wrong. A girl in a faded hoodie held both cards to her chest. Can I be yellow? You can always be yellow, Jamal said. Yellow is what adults call wisdom. Later, Maya typed up the training change and pushed it to the cloud. She thought about Bennett's voice, the panel, the scarf, the boy named Marco, the sweaty man whose body had been telling a truer story. The machine was a flashlight, not the sun. Her job wasn't to convince anyone otherwise, her job was to show where to point it. Fall came like a gentle throat clearing, then cleared like a cough, the district announced mid-year budget cuts. Jamal's school lost 2 elective periods, including the lab he loved most. He called Maya from a cafeteria that sounded both huge and tinny. They're shuttering the after-school robotics, he said. His voice was calm in the practiced way of men who have coached themselves not to sound cracked when they are. Come home, Maya said. We'll build the lab on the porch. They did not literally haul tables onto her porch, there were codes and mice and things that hate do, but they used the word as if it were a place you could draw in chalk. They got permission to host Porch Labs twice a month in the library's meeting room. Tiana built a website with a page that said class is always in session, even if a bell never rings. Zuri sourced used oscilloscopes from a university surplus warehouse. Mr. Diaz donated scrap acrylic and hardware. Rosa organized a parent carpool like a general with a good heart. At the first library session, Jamal watched two boys lo salda a kit with tongues peeking from the corners of their mouths, concentration making them quieter than any rule could. He felt the ache of loss in his chest, and then he felt something else, not its opposite but its cousin, relief that the work could move sideways when a door slammed shut. After the session, a woman in a school district polo approached, wary. "I heard your program is siphoning kids from after-school study hall," she said. Jamal held her gaze. "We're siphoning kids into study hall because they realize algebra helps solder a circuit and budget a project," he said. "You can check their grades." The woman blinked. Okay. I will." She did. She returned 3 weeks later with a sheepish smile and a promise to help with flyers. Jamal wrote her a thank you note that used the word partnership twice and meant it each time. At home, Maya watched him thrive and felt the particular warmth of watching someone you love stand in the exact place that fits their feet. The garage and the library began to feel like extensions of the same room, where devices were built and people were, too. One evening, after Lily had arranged her stuffed animals to face a Lego demo, "I'm teaching them pulleys," she said. Maya walked onto the actual porch with Jamal. The maple leaves were a color that would make a paint company argue with itself. "I thought I had to fight everything from inside the building," he said. "Turns out the porch is bigger." "Porches are liminal," Maya said. "You can lean out and pull in." "Put that on the website," Jamal said lightly. He jotted it anyway. The envelope was cream with an embossed seal that made Rosa rub it like a talisman before Lily got home from school to help open important things. It came from the National Science Foundation, and it was weighty enough to be dramatic. Maya placed it on the kitchen table and stared at it as if it might combust into either confetti or legal filings. Aisha arrived breathless, having jogged from her car. Jamal pretended he was not invested and stood with his hands in his back pockets like a boy waiting to see if he had gotten a part. Lily kicked off her sneakers and announced, "I am ready to do the honors." Maya smiled. Gently. Lily slid a careful finger under the flap. Paper tore, the kind of satisfying rip that makes all humans feel ate for a moment. Inside was a letter on heavy stock. "Dear Ms. Torres," it began. "We are pleased to inform you that you have been selected to receive the National Science Foundation's Innovation in Healthcare Award for your work in developing and deploying an affordable, community-centered diagnostic platform." It went on to talk about impact metrics and mortality reduction curves in remote clinics, about training modules cited by nurses as respectful and useful, about the unusual openness of their design notes, a model we hope others emulate. "We?" Maya asked aloud, blinking. "They mean we." "They better," Aisha said, voice thick. "Because my firmware cries at night." Jamal laughed and then did not, because his eyes were wet. Rosa pressed a hand to her chest and began to speak in Spanish to no one visible. Lily danced in a wobbly circle chanting, "Award. Award." The letter listed a ceremony date 6 weeks out, a modest stage in a city ballroom. It also included a request: "Would you consider giving a brief address on the role of community in scientific innovation?" Maya felt a shiver, a lovely one that also previewed the nausea of a microphone. She swallowed and nodded. "Yes," she said to the letter in the privacy of her kitchen. "I would consider that." They ate leftover arroz and ideas. Zuri joined on a video call to cheer. Mr. Diaz stopped by with a bag of pan dulce and a hug that lifted Maya briefly off the floor. Miguel arrived late, shy at the door, then erupted into a grin so wide it made everyone upset and ridiculous at the same time. "Okay," Aisha said at last, practical as ever, wiping her eyes with the heel of her hand. "We savor and then we print. The county wants 10 more units by January." Maya nodded. She placed the letter on the mantel beside Lily's finger-painted rocket and the photo of Gloria the blender on graduation day. The juxtaposition looked right. That night, she lay in bed, sleepless with gratitude's noisy cousin, and turned over phrases in her head like worry stones. "We published our seams. We listened to Tuesdays. We asked a scarf to teach us a lesson." It sounded like a fairy tale told by a bench vice, and she laughed quietly into her pillow so as not to wake Lily in the next room. The run-up to the ceremony coincided with a flu spike. Clinics ran hot, the dashboard pulsed like a heartbeat that had started running. Cadenza units hummed, porch labs filled, Aisha's code commits stacked, Zuri's checklists molted into new versions. Life took on the rhythm of a trio that plays together so often they can land on silence at the exact same time. In the garage, Maya practiced her speech to a jury of the unblinking, Gloria the retired blender, a wall of cartridges, and a tripod holding her phone. She spoke aloud to them and to the woman who had raised her to treat work as a sacrament. She remembered Lily asking what a legacy was, and decided the words would need to sound like a porch, solid, familiar, open. "Science doesn't belong to labs any more than stories belong to libraries," she said into the empty room. "We keep them there, we shape them there, but we live them here. In Tuesdays. In scarf vents and donut diplomacy. In the honest clatter of a clinic and the quiet of a child sleeping because the fever broke." She stopped, embarrassed by her own poetry, then took another run with fewer metaphors and more verbs. "We learned. We fixed. We shared." She timed it. 6 minutes, 32 seconds. "Trim it to 5, Jamal advised, leaning in the doorway with a mug. "Keep one metaphor. Preferably the donuts." "The donuts stay," Maya said gravely. On the last porch labs before the ceremony, Tiana announced the group had gotten a small grant to build 10 Gloria blender kits for younger kids. She clicked to a slide that said if you can take something apart, you can put it together. If you can put it together, you can build your own story. Jamal gave her a thumbs up. Maya wrote the line on her hand to steal later, then crossed it out and wrote credit Tiana. Afterward, they moved to the porch, actual and metaphorical. Rosa set out cups. Aisha brought a cake that said seams and dreams in piped icing that leaned to one side. Miguel presented Maya with a 3D printed key, ridiculous and charming, labeled to the city in Sharpie. "The city hasn't given me a key," Maya said, laughing. "So we made one," Miguel said. Use it anyway. Maya stood. Okay, she said, her voice reaching a little further than the porch and somewhere less literal. We're going to that stage because you built it. We're going to that stage with Etta and Val and Mr. Diaz and Zuri and Lily and Jamal and Aisha and Tiana and Miguel and Rosa and the nurses who told us what Tuesday feels like. We're going to that stage with a scarf and a donut and a blender named Gloria. And we're leaving the door open behind us. Lily climbed up beside her and slipped a small book into Maya's hand. Construction paper, stapled. On the cover, Dreams Made Real, written in a child's careful letters. Inside, crayon scenes, mom at a bench, a nurse with a big smile, a maple tree, a door painted a blue that wanted to be sky. Maya felt her throat close around a gratitude so large it turned into a breath and then a sentence. I think I'm ready, she said. The porch light clicked on time, finally. The moth made a polite orbit and, bored, drifted away toward the quiet street. Across the neighborhood, a screen door snapped and someone called, You coming? The sound carried like a hand outstretched. I'm coming, Maya said softly, to the voice, to the room, to the stage that wasn't the point but would be a lovely place to tell the story of what was. The ballroom was the sort that pretended to be timeless, gold trim, a carpet pattern that suggested constellations if you squinted, name placards serifed into respectability. Maya's hands were not steady, but they were small and honest, and Aisha squeezed one as if cueing a duet. Jamal set his phone to do not disturb and still checked that the camera was ready because brothers panic in prophylaxis. Rosa dabbed the corner of her eye with a handkerchief that had seen weddings and hospital rooms and graduations and knew how to carry salt. Backstage, the stage manager whispered cues like a spell. Healthcare category after education. 2 minutes to walk. 5 for remarks. He looked at Maya, at the small index card in her hand that said verbs, metaphors and donuts stay, and smiled. Congratulations. From the wings, she could see the front row, Dr. Klein from FDA, 2 county clinic directors, Val the nurse, who had driven 4 hours and still clapped like a cousin, Mr. Diaz in his only suit, looking like an oak in a tie, Zuri with a clipboard because that is how she breathes, Miguel craning his neck from 3 rows back, Tiana whispering, I'm going to faint and not fainting. Lily sat on Rosa's lap, swinging her shoes and whispering the order of events to herself like a steadying poem, education, healthcare, environment, snacks. The MC's voice lilted across a familiar arc. Innovation is not only invention, it is iteration, humility, and the courage to publish your seams, he said, and Maya felt her heart pull tight as if someone had tugged a kite string from a clean sky. And now, the MC continued, the Innovation in Healthcare Award goes to A Beat Long Enough to Teach Patients, Maya Torres and Cadenza Diagnostics. The sound rose like a wave that had learned to walk. Maya stood, stumbled, corrected, and walked out into the lights. She shook the MC's hand, accepted a plaque that felt both heavy and like a prop, and turned toward the microphone. The podium smelled faintly of furniture polish and speeches. Thank you, she began, and the mic turned her small voice into a room-sized one. I brought a lot of people with me tonight, even if only some of them are visible. A laugh, soft and kind. She breathed. I'm told to keep this short, which is good, because what we do is not complicated to describe. We listened to Tuesday. We built a flashlight, not a sun. We broke things in public and fixed them in public. We ate donuts with nurses and asked them to teach us where the seams live. She paused, saw Bennett in the 4th row, invited for another category, eyes unreadable, jaw set. She did not look away because he was not the point. Our diagnostics work because a clinic manager named Etta told us a scarf will block a fan, because Val held a laminated card like a flag, because a machinist named Diaz said the first dozen will teach you what the next 100 want. They work because an engineer named Aisha writes code that lets a machine breathe. Because a quality lead named Zuri thinks in checklists and mercy. Because my brother Jamal uses a porch to build scientists. Because my daughter Lily asks better questions than most panels. A ripple of laughter, Lily's small gasp. Maya's throat steadied. We got asked a lot how we know we can trust our device. The real answer is that it never replaces the human in the loop, it partners with them. One day it flagged a kid named Marco in time. Another day it said green while a clinician's eyes said yellow and the glucose meter screamed red. Both days, a human made a choice with better light. That's the story I'm honored to be part of. She looked down at the index card, at verbs metaphors, then ignored her own advice. We published our seams so they could become stitches, she said. Thank you for believing that stitches are beautiful. The applause came like a blanket, not a storm. On the way back to her seat, Maya met Aisha's eyes and saw them bright as if someone had turned up the dimmer on her soul. Jamal hugged her so hard the plaque knocked his collarbone. Lily whispered, You said donuts. Rosa kissed her temple and said in Spanish, Tu abuela applaud desde donde este, your grandmother applauds from wherever she is. Backstage, the stage manager mouthed, 5 minutes on the nose. Zuri flashed 5 fingers and then made the trim gesture anyway, because that is who she was and who she would remain. After, as people mingled with their practiced excellence, a philanthropist with a navy pocket square asked, How do you plan to scale? With caution and neighbors, Maya said. And the right kind of money. Pocket square blinked. Is there a wrong kind? There are strings that tie you to a chair, she answered, smiling to soften the truth. We prefer threads that bind you to a community. He made a thoughtful sound that might one day become a check. Or not. Maya had learned not to live in the subjunctive too long. In the Uber home, Lily fell asleep with her head on Maya's lap, mouth open in the poetry of tired children. The plaque lay at their feet like a well-behaved pet. Out the window, the city tried to be a sky of its own. Maya let her head rest against the glass and closed her eyes to the kind of happiness that is not loud, only deep. The press requests came like moths to the porch light after a summer rain, ping, ping, ping. A regional news station wanted to shoot B-roll in the garage. A podcast called Hardware and Humanity requested an hour. A national morning show asked if Lily could appear on camera to talk about seeing mommy's dream. No, Maya said to that last one without conferring, and then worried she was joyless. Aisha texted, boundaries are a kind of love. They agreed to 3 things: the regional TV spot, because it would reach clinics that still thought Cadenza was rumor, the podcast, because the host had once been an EMT and asked questions like a colleague, and a Spanish radio interview, because Rosa deserved to hear her daughter's story in a register she didn't have to translate. The TV crew arrived with a boom mic that hit the wind chimes twice and apologized to everyone like a clumsy uncle. They wanted Maya soldering dramatically. Maya insisted on also filming Zuri inspecting checklists, Miguel training a new hire on the gasket twist, Aisha loading firmware like a mother tucking in a child. The producer nodded politely and then asked to refilm Maya flipping a switch because the light caught it nice. After they left, Jamal leaned on the workbench. We could drown in this, he said. We won't, Maya said. We'll use it to water what we care about. The podcast was different, longer, slower, more like a porch conversation. The host asked about the first time you believed the thing beyond your hands might be true, and Maya told a story about Lily asleep on a blanket in the garage while the prototype hummed like a refrigerator and she felt, for a second, the edges of her fear become a cup she could hold. The host asked Aisha what she wished people knew about code. That it is also a craft, Aisha said. That sometimes the difference between a crash and a cure is a comma moved one space, and that this is both terrifying and beautiful. The Spanish radio interview made Rosa cry and then laugh at herself for crying. Maya said vecindario and confianza and martes, and Rosa squeezed her hand on each word like a litany. The media swirl left in its wake 2 things Maya had expected: more inquiries, 3 new clinics, and 1 thing she had not, a direct message from a venture partner she'd previously dodged. Congrats. Ready for a real round? The message read, followed by a number with an offensive number of zeros. She didn't answer. She sent the message to Aisha and Jamal and Zuri with the caption, wrong kind of rope? Zuri replied with a gif of a cat tangled in yarn. Aisha wrote, we can listen, then say no. Practice saying no. Jamal wrote, say, what does success look like without us breaking our Tuesdays? Maya smiled. She could almost hear his teacher voice. She agreed to a call, and when the partner kept saying burn rate like a chant and proposed offshore contract manufacturing with a lead time that would eat their skin, Maya said no, thank you without a tremor. When he pivoted to advisory board seat, she said they preferred nurses and machinists to MBAs. He laughed a little, then didn't. After she hung up, she felt the ping of doubt. Had she rejected a lifeboat? She walked to the porch. The maple was making a racket of small decisions. Lily was drawing a comic about a detective microscope. Miguel rode by on a borrowed bike and shouted, we fixed the clamp issue, like a town crier. The doubt shrank obediently. The city was not on fire. They were not on a boat, they were planting a garden. Scaling is a word that looks graceful on pitch decks and behaves like an untrained goat. The third batch, 50 units, refused to be behaved by vocabulary alone. It began with a hiss, literally. At the coastal clinic, a unit developed a small leak where the reagent cartridge met the manifold. The nurse heard the quiet PSSSHT and sent a photo, a shining halo of damp around the junction. Zuri circled the photo in red and wrote, field failure 003. Possible O-ring pinch or material swell. A day later, Pine Ridge reported a similar anomaly. Not catastrophic, but cumulative, a failure mode that would seed mistrust like dandelions. Within a week, 6 units in 3 clinics showed intermittent seal issues. Zuri's incident board filled, ENV, humidity 78%, lot, 3B O-ring supplier, temp, stored near heater. She made columns, arrows, and a grid that could have been modern art if it weren't trying to save people. Maya called an all-hands at Diaz Manufacturing. The room smelled like coffee and elastomer. On the table, they laid one of the misbehaving units like a patient and rolled stools around it like a surgical team that had only ever watched TV surgeries. Aisha displayed a slide that showed tolerances color-coded into blues and alarming reds. Zuri held 3 O-rings side by side. Supplier A, Supplier B new lot. Our original prototype ring. Miguel picked up the Supplier B ring and stretched it between his thumbs. Feels softer. Diaz nodded, palming his chin. Could be durometer drift, he said. If they changed formulation 5%, you get swell in humidity. He looked at Maya. We can test. We need a chamber. Or a bathroom with a space heater. They used both, because this was their life. Zuri wrote humidity torture on a whiteboard and no one laughed because it wasn't a joke yet. They hung rings in jars, steamed them, cooled them, measured them. The Supplier B rings expanded microscopically, then remembered the wrong shape when they cooled. The old stock from Supplier A behaved like a stoic parent, unmoved, predictable. Root cause, material variance plus humidity, Zuri said, writing it with relief sharp enough to hear. Corrective action, revert to Supplier A, add incoming durometer check, tweak groove dimension plus 0, 5 mm to resist swell, update storage SOP to ban heaters near bins. What about units already in the field? Val asked on a call, her voice crisp. We need a field fix that fits in a glove box. Aisha posted a design for a field retrofit clip that gently compressed the junction and made pinching impossible. Miguel printed 10 before lunch. They wrote a 1-page bulletin with photos that looked like a cooking blog for engineers. Step 1, remove panel. Step 2, slide clip. Step 3, hear the click. Step 4, wipe once. Zuri mailed kits with a checklist and a self-addressed envelope for old rings. It felt like sending out apology letters with cookies. Within a week, the hiss was gone, literally. The clinics reported dry halos and its psychic cousin, recovered trust. In the incident log, Zuri wrote 003 closed with a line as straight as a promise. Scaling is goats, Maya said to Aisha that night, forehead on the bench. Goats are stubborn and charming, Aisha said. We can be both. Maya laughed, the tired kind, and turned up the porch light because the teens were arriving with soldering irons like kids with fishing poles. Good News wore a suit and a smile, City Microgrant awarded, $25,000 for Porch Labs, and arrived with a PDF of stipulations sharp enough to cut. Jamal read the document in the library office while Tiana fanned herself theatrically with a worksheet. Deliverables, he said. 10 sessions, 30 students, metrics on standardized test improvement, brand placement. What is brand placement for a city? He scrolled. And here's a clause about city review of all printed materials and a suggestion to avoid political topics. Tiana, are pulleys political? Everything is political if someone is bored, Tiana said. But pulleys are more physics than politics. Jamal rubbed his temples. There's also a line that says we can't criticize city agencies on official channels. Which is, a line. Maya read the document that evening with the expression of a person checking a patient's chart and finding too many acronyms. We can live with program reporting, we already track attendance, she said. We can ignore brand placement beyond a small logo on flyers. But that gag clause, no. Rosa made the sign of the cross because old reflexes are wise sometimes. Money that shuts your mouth is debt, she said. They requested a meeting. The city program officer was a woman in her 40s with tired eyes and a good pen. She wore a blouse that said budget and a bracelet that said Niece's Art Fair. The clause is boilerplate, she said, flipping to the page. We don't enforce it for community programs. It's legacy language from a PR mess a decade ago. Then let's remove it, Jamal said, smiling in a way that invited yes and did not fear no. She hesitated, then nodded. We can strike it and replace with program agrees not to endorse candidates. We're not trying to muzzle you, we just don't want to be accused of electioneering. Fair, Maya said. We're not in the candidate business. We're in the Tuesday business. The officer smiled at that. I wish more grantees knew which business they're in. They left with a revised PDF that still demanded metrics but did not steal their voice. Tiana posted a new flyer, Porch Labs at Library, make, break, build. In small print, funded in part by a city microgrant. In smaller print, opinions are our own, pulleys are physics. On opening night of the new grant cycle, Jamal held up a lemon and a nail and said, tonight we're going to make a battery, because sometimes power comes from places everyone calls sour. The teens laughed and then made actual power from citrus, and Jamal felt a literal tingling in his palms that he decided to call gratitude. The first time Aisha saw an airfield, she was 7 and following her mother's hand like a kite string through heat. The tarmac shimmered. Men in reflective vests moved with the assurance of people who had found their verb. Her family left without most of their books, with a packet of documents, with a lemon wrapped in a handkerchief because her grandmother said you always leave with something alive. They arrived in a city that smelled like rain on concrete and lived in a motel for 3 weeks while adults argued in whispers. In middle school, she found the computer lab because it was the only room that buzzed like an airfield. Code felt like grammar for machines, and she loved that a well-placed comma could turn stubbornness into obedience. In high school, a teacher named Mrs. Damber set a box on the table labeled Take Apart. Inside, a VCR, a hairdryer, a blender that later, hilariously, she would meet again in Maya's garage as Gloria's cousin. You can take things apart, Mrs. Damber said, and put them together as a different story. College was a scholarship stapled to 2 jobs and a family that learned the bus schedules like a psalm. She learned to read the room in a dozen rooms, labs where her accent made men lean in as if proximity could translate, meetings where she kept her hands visible so no one thought she was angry when she was right. In a grad seminar, Bennett had been kind in the way of men who are careful with stars they might want to borrow light from. Later, he was less kind. She learned to code while being watched. The day she met Maya, they were both holding on to exhaustion like a safety bar. Aisha watched Maya speak with a mouth that apologized and eyes that did not, and she thought, oh. We might be a team that can carry both science and softness without dropping either. At the award ceremony after party, a donor asked Aisha where she was from and then, unsatisfied by the answer Detroit, asked where she was really from. From devices that don't scold you for being held wrong, Aisha replied, smiling, and later removed his business card from her pocket and folded it into a crane that Lily declared almost flight-worthy. Aisha sometimes had dreams in which she was back on the tarmac, 7 again, except now she could read the manuals the men in vests carried. She woke with the sensation of a runway under her feet and remembered that code is a language you can teach other people to speak, and that is what she was doing now, on porches and in clinics, with commas and kindness. One afternoon, she found a letter in her inbox from Mrs. Danvers. A friend had sent her the podcast. I'm proud of you, it said. You always had good hands. Aisha printed it on paper that felt too expensive for ink and taped it above her monitor. When the firmware built clean, she sometimes touched the edge of the paper and said, thank you for the box. The cemetery was quiet in the way gardens are quiet when they're listening. Maya brought Lily and a thermos of cocoa and the first production unit's brass cereal plate, Cadenza 001, etched by Miguel on a lunch break with the concentration of a man engraving a wedding ring. The air held that thin winter light that makes colors honest. They found the stone by feel as much as by map. Carmen Torres, 1955 to 2019. Below, the line Maya had argued for and then wept at, she kept the door open. Rosa had said that was too small a phrase for so large a woman. Maya had replied that doors explain a lot when you give them time. Lily placed the cereal plate at the base of the stone like an offering. Hi, Abuela, she said, careful. We brought you the first one. Maya spoke without feeling silly, because grief had stripped her of the vanity that cares about audience. We thought we should show you, she said. We stitched the seams. We fed people at the table. We kept the door open. The wind moved like a person deciding which way to walk. Lily poured cocoa into 2 paper cups and set one near the stone, because rituals are how children build theology. Do you think she knows? Lily asked. Yes, Maya said, because you are allowed to give your child the courage of your convictions even when they are stitched together with yearning. She knows. They sat on the bench for a while. Lily chattered about a science fair volcano that was going to be a landslide instead because lava is common. Maya thought about the device that had saved Marco, about the hiss that had taught them humility, about the goat batch and the lemon batteries and the city grant without a gag. She thought about Bennett and how she no longer felt the compulsion to narrate herself around him like a defense attorney. She thought about Aisha as a girl at an airfield and Jamal deciding porches are bigger than rooms. She ran a finger over the engraved numbers on the brass plate until they were warm to the touch. Abuela, she said softly in Spanish, we are making what you taught, something that works, something that stays. On the way back to the car, they passed an older man arguing affectionately with a stone as if it owed him rent. Maya felt the ache that lives next door to gratitude and did not try to evict it. She buckled Lily in, then sat for a moment with her forehead on the steering wheel, another ritual acquired in a season when you take breaths where they will let you. At home, she mounted a second copy of the cereal plate on the wall above the bench, a reminder that the first of anything is not an origin story alone, it is an obligation. Lily stuck a star sticker next to it and declared the wall the Hall of Stitches. That night, after dishes and emails and a round of pretend the stuffed rabbit is a microbiologist, Maya stepped onto the porch. The maple was bare, each branch a clean line against the sky. The porch light clicked on with almost ceremonial precision. Somewhere down the block, a screen door snapped and the same old voice, hers by now, called out, you coming? I'm here, Maya said. Then, because it mattered to say both, she added, I'm coming. She went back inside and wrote 3 emails, one to a nurse manager about the new yellow prompt, one to the city officer thanking her for the clause removal, one to Mrs. Danvers, Aisha's teacher, inviting her to speak at Porch Labs. Then she closed the laptop and opened a book, Lily's copy of Dreams Made Real, construction paper and crayon. She turned the page to a drawing of a blue door and a crowd and a small figure at a microphone. Under it, in Lily's careful letters, we made it work together. Maya turned off the light, letting the porch glow be enough for the room. The house, hers, Rose's, Jamal's, Aisha's, Lily's, the clinics, the teens, settled into the warm tick of radiators and the steady breath of sleeping, the kind of quiet that is not absence but presence being polite. The first time a Cadenza unit left the country, it wore a flight case like armor and Aisha like a parent. The case was black, padded, with a custom-cut foam that Miguel had carved after 3 tries and 1 expletive. On the lid, in paint stenciled by Zuri, were the words, handle with care, handle with hope. Aisha volunteered to escort it because her passport carried more stamps than the rest combined and because the partner clinic was in a rural district outside Nairobi, where she had once spent a semester of grad school watching children wait for antibiotics like they were ration sweets. The flight was long, the customs queue longer, and when an officer asked, what is this equipment? Aisha answered, it listens to blood so doctors can listen faster. The officer tilted his head, stamped the form, and let her through. At the clinic, a nurse named Beatrice, tall and sure-eyed, unlatched the case like she was opening a gift. They powered the device with a solar-charged battery, the hum as familiar to Aisha as breath. It blinked green. A child coughed. The day began. By evening, they had screened 20 patients. 2 were flagged for bacterial pneumonia that Beatrice's stethoscope had suspected but not confirmed. Antibiotics were started. Aisha took notes on how dust clung to the intake fan, how the reagent vial labels sweated in the heat, how Beatrice improvised shade with a scarf pinned to the roof beams. She sent photos back to Maya, device survived, kids too. Dust is bossy. We need shade protocols. Maya printed the photo of the scarf shade and taped it above her desk. Science learns manners from scarves, she said to Jamal, who laughed and said, then we'll need more scarves. Back home, Jamal faced his own old wound. A principal at a magnet school had once told him his porch lab was a sweet hobby but not scalable and declined to partner. That same school now called, saying, we heard you got a grant. Our students need enrichment. Jamal hesitated. Pride can masquerade as protection. But Maya nudged him. Don't punish the kids for the adults' delay, she said. Let's make Tuesday bigger. So he walked into the school with a crate of lemons, wires, and cardboard. The students, some skeptical, some bored, some alight, gathered. He told the lemon battery story again, the one about sourness and power, and watched their faces shift from courtesy to curiosity to genuine wonder when the bulb glowed. A girl raised her hand. Why not just use a real battery, she asked. Jamal grinned. Because sometimes the real lesson isn't the wattage, it's seeing that power can hide in places you dismiss. She nodded, as if tucking the thought in her pocket. By the end of the semester, the school asked him to design a permanent makerspace. He declined, for now. We'll pilot a porch first, he said. Your courtyard has the right kind of light. Diaz introduced them to a mid-size manufacturer, Linfield Precision, a facility that smelled of coolant and order. They walked the floor, hairnets in place, watching CNC machines cut steel like butter. The plant manager, Ms. Han, spoke with the calm authority of someone who had seen dozens of startups flame out. Your device is elegant, she said. Your tolerances are honest. But your batch records are thin. We need robust documentation for scale. Zuri practically salivated. Documentation is my love language, she said, pulling out binders. Ms. Han raised an eyebrow and said, you might be the first founder team I've met who said that sincerely. They left 10 prototypes for a trial run. A week later, Ms. Han emailed, your design is manufacturable. Recommend minor radius change to ease milling. Also, your people are unusual. Keep them. Maya read the email aloud on the porch, where Miguel and Val were soldering demonstration boards for the teens. Keep them, Maya repeated, smiling. As if we'd trade you in for smoother radii. The zeros kept coming. A foundation offered $500,000, with the condition that Cadenza merge into their portfolio and adopt their branding. A private investor dangled $1 million, with board seats for 2 men who asked in the first meeting, could we pivot to a fitness application? The consumer market is bigger. Maya shut the laptop with the precision of a scalpel. No. The room was quiet until Lily, coloring at the table, said, that's like when someone says I can have their candy but only if I wear their shoes. What if the shoes don't fit? Everyone laughed, but it was laughter with teeth. Later, Aisha said, we will always look smaller on paper than they want us to be. But on paper, people are numbers. In clinics, people are lives. Maya nodded. Then clinics are where we'll grow. The community science fair was held in the rec center, banners drawn by hand, tables draped in plastic cloths. Porch Labs had a booth with the lemon batteries, the prototype, under supervision, and photos from Kenya. Jamal gave his spiel, Tiana demonstrated soldering. Then Lily, in a sparkly headband, tugged the mic from its stand. My mom made a machine that helps doctors, she said in a clear, high voice. But she didn't do it alone. She did it with friends. And I'm going to help too, when I'm big. Or maybe now. The room chuckled gently. Maya's throat closed with a fierce mix of pride and ache. Lily added, we call it stitches, because seams don't mean broken, they mean together. Applause rose, not thunderous, but true. Maya covered her face for a moment, then let herself cry openly. Jamal whispered, that's the keynote speaker for the 2040 fair. Late one night, after the fair, after the dishes, after Lily's blanket tugged at her chin, Maya sat at the bench with Aisha and Jamal. The porch was quiet, the maple sketched against a street lamp. We're still tiny, Maya said. 50 units, a grant, a porch. But sometimes I look at the arc and see something bigger. Aisha sipped tea. Arc is fine. But arcs are made of dots. We place the dots. One clinic. One porch. One scarf shading a fan. Jamal added, and one kid with a lemon, finding power. Maya smiled. The porch light hummed. The night leaned in. And for the first time in a long time, the future felt less like a storm to survive and more like a field to plant. Excellent glowing star, let's move into the late climax arc. Bennett resurfaces, the stakes get national, and Maya must defend everything she's built. Here are chapters 53 to 60, in a longer block to keep word count climbing and momentum high. The envelope looked official, cream-colored, with a seal from the National Health Innovation Board. Maya slid it open at the porch table, Jamal hovering with 2 mugs of coffee. Inside, an invitation to present Cadenza at the Global Health Tech Symposium in Washington, D.C., travel stipend, booth space, and a coveted 15-minute slot in front of policymakers, investors, and NGOs. Maya blinked at the letter until the words blurred. Lily tugged at her sleeve. Mommy, does that mean people all over will see your machine? Maya nodded, the weight of it pressing on her chest. Yes, baby. All over. And somewhere, in some office, Dr. Bennett saw the same program agenda, saw Maya's name, and felt his jaw tighten. 3 days later, emails began to circulate. Anonymous, but slickly written, questioning the safety of Cadenza's diagnostics. Phrases like unverified biomarker claims and danger of misdiagnosis in low-resource clinics. Maya knew the tone. Bennett had always written critiques like daggers dipped in courtesy. The board called her, we'll need you to address these concerns head-on at the symposium. Can you bring peer-reviewed data? Maya hung up, pulse drumming. He's coming for us, she said. Aisha put a hand on her shoulder. Then we don't fight shadows. We bring light. Publish. Share the data. Let the science speak. For weeks, Porch Labs turned into a hive. Zuri triple-checked datasets, Miguel refined imaging outputs, Tiana coded visualization dashboards. Maya pulled 12-hour days, then 16. At midnight, she was still at the bench, formatting graphs. At 3 a.m., Jamal found her asleep against the desk, highlighter still in hand. They submitted a preprint to an open-access journal. The reviewers, rushed but curious, sent comments. Maya answered each line like a lawyer at trial. Within 2 weeks, the paper was live, portable biomarker detection for resource-limited clinics, a pilot study of Cadenza diagnostics. The DOI link spread faster than Bennett's whispers. The ballroom was cavernous, chandeliers reflecting light across banners. Booths lined the walls, sleek VR headsets, robotic arms, AI dashboards. And in the middle, a table draped in blue with a humble device, Cadenza, perched like a bird ready to sing. Maya's palm sweated. Lily, in a small blazer, sat with Jamal in the front row. Aisha squeezed Maya's hand. 15 minutes. Truth and data. That's all. The moderator announced her name. Applause polite, expectant. Maya stepped to the podium. Behind her, the screen glowed with the first slide, a child in Nairobi holding a lemon battery, smiling. She began. 10 minutes into the talk, as Maya explained the biomarker breakthrough, a hand shot up from the audience. Dr. Bennett, in a crisp suit, voice sharp. Ms. Torres, isn't it true your so-called biomarker has not been validated against gold standard assays across diverse populations? Isn't it reckless to deploy such an untested device in vulnerable clinics? Gasps, murmurs. Maya inhaled. Dr. Bennett, thank you for raising that. Validation is vital. Which is why we've tested across 3 cohorts in Kenya, Baltimore, and rural Appalachia. Our preprint is publicly available. Our data align with gold standards within a 95% confidence interval. She clicked to the next slide, graphs, tables, photos of clinics, nurses giving thumbs up. The murmurs shifted. From doubt to curiosity. Bennett pressed again, voice rising. But isn't it dangerous to give hope with incomplete science? Maya steadied her voice. Dangerous is telling families to wait 10 years for a solution when children die every week from infections we can already detect. Dangerous is pretending perfection must precede progress. The room hushed. Cameras clicked. Jamal whispered to Lily, remember this. This is what standing looks like. The moderator cleared his throat. Dr. Torres, please continue. And Maya did, voice stronger now, riding the current instead of fighting it. When she finished, the applause wasn't polite. It was thunderous. Reporters swarmed. Panel judges leaned in, asking for deployment plans. The head of the board announced, Cadenza Diagnostics is hereby awarded a $200,000 seed grant for immediate scaling in community clinics. Maya's knees almost gave way. Aisha caught her arm. Jamal lifted Lily, who waved both hands like flags. Bennett slipped from the room, face taut. For the first time, his shadow felt smaller than the light. Back home, the porch felt different. Not bigger, not richer, but steadier. The grant money meant more devices, more hands, more mornings without the gnaw of fear. They ordered materials, hired part-time caregivers for Lily, and sketched a roadmap with sticky notes covering the wall. But Maya knew the real triumph wasn't the check or the stage. It was the knowledge that they had survived sabotage, exhaustion, and doubt without losing themselves. She tucked the award certificate into a drawer, then lifted Lily onto her lap. This is just the start, she whispered. Lily grinned. Then let's keep planting. And Maya nodded, knowing the soil was ready. The morning after the symposium, Maya woke to a stack of emails so tall it made her laugh. NGOs. University researchers. Even small rural clinics writing things like, when can we get a unit? She brewed coffee, sat on the porch with Jamal, and scrolled. You're famous now, Jamal teased. She shook her head. Fame doesn't sterilize components or pay rent. But it does open doors. Aisha joined them later, dropping a bag of bagels on the table. We need to talk about next steps. Not just money. Supply chain, training modules, ethics boards. Maya rubbed her eyes. I thought the pitch was the hard part. No, Aisha said gently. The hard part is proving we can scale without losing the heart of it. The first signed order came from a clinic in rural Kentucky. Maya stared at the email, stunned. She had imagined Africa or South America, not Appalachia. Dr. Lewis, the clinic director, wrote, we lose patients every winter to untreated infections. If your device works, we'll take 3. Maya whispered, 3. Not hundreds. Not thousands. 3. And yet, the weight of it felt enormous. Jamal grinned. Better start building. Lily piped up, coloring at the table. Can I put the stickers on them? Maya smiled. Only if you promise not to cover the power switch. The porch wasn't enough anymore. They rented a dusty warehouse on the edge of town, once a furniture store. Fluorescent lights buzzed, the smell of sawdust lingered in the corners. Zuri set up soldering stations, Miguel stacked boxes of circuit boards, Tiana covered a wall with flowcharts. The first assembly day was chaos, screws misplaced, wires crossed, one prototype shorting out with a pop. Everyone groaned. Maya clapped her hands. It's okay. Mistakes mean we're learning. My grandmother always said, measure twice, cut once. Today we measured once and cut nothing straight. Tomorrow we'll do better. They laughed, tension dissolving. At school, Jamal faced his own war, budget cuts slashing the science program. He sat with the principal, hands balled into fists. You can't cancel robotics, he argued. These kids, this is their chance. The principal sighed. We don't have the funds, Jamal. I'm sorry. That evening, he came to Maya. I can't keep teaching like this. The system won't let me. She studied him. So, join me. His jaw dropped. Join. Cadenza? Why not? You've been teaching under pressure for years. We need curriculum, outreach, a mentorship program. You're already doing it. Let's just make it official. Jamal's eyes filled, equal parts fear and hope. It was a cold morning when the first 3 devices sat neatly packed in foam-lined boxes. Lily posed beside them, pretending they were astronauts in capsules. The courier truck pulled up. Maya handed over the forms, heart pounding. As the doors closed and the truck rumbled away, the team stood in silence. Feels like sending your kids to college, Aisha murmured. Maya whispered, feels like sending pieces of grand spirit out into the world. They watched the truck until it disappeared. A week later, the email came, all 3 patients diagnosed correctly. Life saved. Device works. Thank you. Maya printed the message, taped it to the warehouse wall. Every time fatigue clawed at them, someone would point to the paper. That's why. Jamal added sticky notes underneath, names of patients, towns, testimonials. Soon, the wall grew into a patchwork quilt of gratitude. It wasn't just data anymore. It was stories. One evening, Aisha lingered after the team left. The hum of machines was the only sound. I never told you why I came back, she said softly. Why I left my lab job. Maya tilted her head. In my village, Aisha continued, my little brother died from an infection. We were too far from a hospital. Too poor for transport. I swore if I ever got out, I'd fight for tools that made distance smaller. Maya's throat tightened. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Because grief isn't always fuel, Aisha said. Sometimes it's quicksand. But working with you, it feels like climbing out. They hugged, long and wordless. Not everyone cheered. A local newspaper ran an opinion piece, are DIY diagnostics safe? Columnists questioned whether an unpolished startup should meddle in healthcare. At a neighborhood barbecue, an older man sneered, you think your garage gadget can replace real doctors? Maya's jaw clenched. Not replace. Support. Catch what's missed. Give doctors a chance to act sooner. The man scoffed, walking away. Jamal nudged her. Don't waste breath on skeptics. Let results do the talking. Still, the sting lingered. Recognition and suspicion often arrived hand in hand. Maya's mother called one night, her voice frail. Mija, you're working too much. You're burning both ends. Maya pressed her forehead against the cool window. I don't have a choice, Mama. Her mother sighed. You always have a choice. Just remember, Lily doesn't need a hero. She needs her mom. The words cut deep. Maya looked across the room, Lily asleep on the couch, clutching a toy stethoscope. Was she sacrificing presence for progress? Could she be both inventor and mother without fracturing? Nora, the librarian, returned with a smile and a stack of children's books. Porch reads again? It's been too long. They gathered on Maya's porch, Jamal, Aisha, the team, neighbors, kids. Someone brought banana bread, someone else sweet tea. Lily climbed onto Maya's lap, whispering, "Read the science story, Mommy." Maya read aloud from a picture book about a girl who built a machine to heal her village. The kids leaned forward, eyes wide. Adults listened too, some wiping tears. When the story ended, applause rose, not for Maya, but for the reminder that community was the soil where all invention grew. The warehouse buzzed like a hive. What had once been a handful of prototypes now multiplied into rows of half-built units on workbenches. Maya walked slowly between the tables, clipboard in hand, Lily trailing behind in her little goggles. "Quality check," Lily announced, tapping each unit with a pencil. The team chuckled. Aisha pointed at the spreadsheet projected on the wall. "Orders are increasing faster than we can produce. 50 units requested this quarter. We're at 10. The room grew tense. Maya inhaled. "Then we prioritize. Clinics where the need is greatest first. This isn't about volume, it's about lives." The team nodded, but Maya caught Jamal's uneasy glance. He was already calculating what that meant for money. Late that night, Jamal sat at his kitchen table with bills spread out. His teaching pay had ended, he had joined Cadenza full-time. But the startup wasn't paying yet. He muttered, "We're building miracles, but miracles don't keep the lights on." Maya walked in, hair tied up, weary eyes. "You okay?" He hesitated. "I'm proud, Maya. I am. But, what if this collapses? What if we can't scale and we both end up broke?" She placed a hand on his. "Then at least we fail trying to build something that mattered." Jamal sighed, half comforted, half terrified. A white SUV pulled up to the warehouse one morning. Out stepped two representatives from a global health NGO, crisp suits, clipboards ready. The team scrambled to look presentable. Lily whispered, "They look like superheroes without capes." The visitors toured the facility, nodding, asking sharp questions about sterilization, battery life, training manuals. Maya answered with calm precision, though sweat prickled at her back. Finally, one said, "If you can prove consistency, we'll consider a pilot program in rural Kenya." Maya felt her knees weaken. Kenya. The word was both exhilarating and terrifying. That evening, Nora stopped by with soup. She found Maya slumped on the porch. "You look like someone who's carrying the moon," Nora said. Maya laughed tiredly. "Kenya, Nora. They want Kenya. And I'm not sure I can carry that far." Nora handed her a bowl. "You don't carry it alone. That's the trick. The moon looks heavy, but it floats because the universe holds it." Maya sipped, warmth spreading through her chest. She didn't answer, but Nora's words settled inside her like a soft anchor. News of their work reached Aisha's old village. One evening she opened an email and froze. It was from her cousin, Amal. "Aisha, we heard about your machine. If you send even one, our clinic could save children. Please. Don't forget us." Tears blurred her vision. She showed Maya, voice trembling. This is why I started. But to help them, I need to go back. To face what I left." Maya squeezed her shoulder. "Then we'll face it together. When the time comes." Scaling wasn't glamorous. Suppliers delayed shipments, a batch of sensors arrived faulty, and the warehouse roof leaked after a storm. Miguel groaned, wiping water off boxes. "At this rate, the mold will be our co-founder." Maya snapped, then immediately regretted it. "We don't have time for jokes." The room went quiet. Lily tugged her sleeve. "Mommy, even superheroes get tired." Maya closed her eyes. "You're right. Sorry, team. Let's regroup." The moment passed, but the cracks of stress showed. To rally spirits, Jamal suggested a community showcase at the library. Dozens of neighbors came, curious, skeptical, hopeful. Maya demonstrated the device on stage. "This isn't science fiction, it's science made accessible. A tool for everyone." Hands shot up. A nurse asked about training. A father asked about cost. A teenager asked how to become an engineer. By the end, applause thundered. Maya caught Jamal's eye, his doubt softened, replaced by quiet pride. Just as momentum grew, an article appeared online, "Garage Tech Risk, Our Lives at Stake?" The byline, Dr. Bennett. He wrote that unregulated devices could misdiagnose, endanger patients, and waste funds. His tone was clinical, but the intent was clear, sabotage. Maya read it aloud, fists trembling. "He won't stop until he buries us." Aisha's eyes flashed. "Then we bury him, with data, with proof." Weeks later, the NGO called, "We're ready. We'll sponsor a pilot program in Kenya. But you need to send a representative to oversee training." Aisha immediately volunteered. Jamal hesitated. "It's dangerous. And if something goes wrong," Aisha shook her head. "If I don't go, who will explain the heart of it? This is my home." Maya hugged her. "Then you'll go. And you'll carry us with you." Amid the chaos, Lily came home with a flyer, STEM Club Science Fair. "Mama, can we build something together?" she asked, eyes wide. Maya's heart ached. She had been so consumed by scaling, she'd almost missed this. Together they built a model volcano that spewed colorful foam. At the fair, Lily stood proudly by her project, shouting, "I'm a scientist like my mom." Maya clapped until her hands stung. For one precious day, it wasn't about orders or grants. It was about legacy, carried forward by a 5-year-old in glitter sneakers. Maya woke at 3 a.m. to the hum of the fridge and the glow of her laptop screen still open. A spreadsheet glared back at her, costs outpacing donations, deadlines looming. Her hands shook as she rubbed her temples. If we fail now, it won't just be me that falls. Lily stirred in the next room. Maya crept in, tucking the blanket tighter. Lily whispered, half asleep, don't worry, mommy. You'll fix it. The word steadied Maya. Children always assumed their parents could do the impossible. Maya wasn't sure she could, but she had no choice. At the airport, Aisha's backpack looked far too small for the weight she carried. You don't have to go alone, Maya said. I could, no, Aisha cut in gently. You need to stay here, hold the fort. If Bennett poisons your reputation, someone must fight back. I'll handle Kenya. They hugged tightly. Lily handed Aisha a drawing, a stick figure woman holding a glowing box under the sun. That's you with your science magic, Lily declared. Aisha blinked away tears. Then I'll bring the magic home safe. Bennett's article spread. Headlines grew bolder, homemade medicine, hope or hazard? Local talk shows debated whether Maya's device endangered lives. Jamal burst into the warehouse one morning, paper in hand. He's calling you reckless. He says if regulators shut you down, it'll be your fault for cutting corners. Maya slammed her fist against the bench. I cut corners? I skipped meals, not safety. He knows it. He's just scared we're succeeding. But still, doubt seeped in. Investors hesitated. Clinics delayed orders. The shadow of Bennett loomed larger each day. One evening, the warehouse was silent except for the drip of a leaky pipe. Maya hunched over a half-assembled unit, hands trembling. Jamal touched her shoulder. Sis, go home. You haven't eaten. If I stop, everything collapses, she whispered. Her vision blurred. She slid to the floor, sobs breaking free. Jamal knelt beside her. Then let it collapse for one night. You're human, Maya. Not a machine. For the first time, Maya admitted it aloud, I'm scared, Jamal. I don't know if I can do this. He held her until the sobs softened. The next morning, Nora appeared with bread still warm from her oven. She set it down without a word. Maya broke a piece, chewing silently. Finally, Nora said, you don't need to win this battle alone. Remember what you told the children at STEM Club? Collaboration builds stronger bridges. Maya swallowed hard. But every bridge I build, Bennett tries to burn. Then build one he can't reach, Nora replied simply. The clarity struck like a bell. Maybe the answer wasn't to fight him head-on, but to outpace him, proving the device where it mattered most. Aisha's first report arrived, a child with a raging fever, undiagnosed for weeks, finally identified by Maya's device. Treatment began within hours. Maya read the email aloud to the team. The doctor said without this, the child might have died. The room erupted in cheers. Even Jamal grinned. Lily clapped her hands. See? Magic. Proof, real, undeniable proof, was spreading across Kenya. And Bennett's words suddenly felt small against the image of a child's life saved. 2 days later, an email arrived from the tech accelerator. We invite Cadenza Diagnostics to our global health innovation pitch competition. $200,000 grant for the winner. Maya's stomach dropped. This was it, the chance to secure their future, to silence Bennett, to scale. But it also meant risk. If she lost publicly, Bennett's narrative would be cemented. If she won, everything could change. She printed the email and taped it to the wall. This is the mountain, she told the team. And we're climbing it. For weeks, Maya rehearsed. Slides, data, patient testimonials from Kenya. She practiced in front of Jamal, Aisha on video calls, even Lily, who always interrupted with, use bigger words, mommy. Miguel added polish to the prototype, Aisha sent field photos, Jamal fine-tuned Maya's delivery. But each night, fear returned. She whispered into the dark, what if I choke? What if I ask for too much? Then she remembered Lily's little voice, don't worry, mommy. You'll fix it. The week of the competition, Bennett published a scathing op-ed, would you trust your child's life to a garage gadget? The article went viral. Talk shows replayed it. Reporters called Maya nonstop. Aisha texted from Kenya, ignore him. The world will see truth when you show them the faces we've saved. Maya inhaled deeply. Then the pitch becomes more than money. It becomes justice. The night before, the warehouse was quiet. Maya stood alone before the glowing prototype, hands resting on its smooth casing. This is for you, Lily, she whispered. For every child who deserves better. Lily patted in, holding her worn teddy bear. Don't be scared, mommy. Tomorrow you just tell them your story. Everyone will listen. Maya kissed her forehead, tears stinging. Tomorrow, everything would be decided. The conference hall pulsed with anticipation. Rows of chairs stretched back into shadow, cameras angled toward a glowing stage. A massive banner read, Global Health Innovation Pitch Competition. Maya stood backstage, clutching the prototype case to her chest. Her palms sweated despite the cool air. Jamal whispered beside her, remember, it's not about the judges. It's about the people who need this. She nodded, but her heart hammered. If I fail, Lily, Aisha, Jamal, we all fall with me. The host's voice boomed, next up, Cadenza Diagnostics, represented by Maya Torres. Spotlights swung toward her. Applause rose. Her feet carried her forward, though she felt as if she were stepping into a storm. Maya launched into her story, Lily's illness, the gaps in rural clinics, the dream of accessible diagnostics. She unveiled the prototype, its screen glowing faintly like a promise. But halfway through, a hand shot up from the judges' panel. Dr. Bennett. His smile was thin as a blade. Ms. Torres, he said smoothly, voice amplified across the hall. You've claimed safety and accuracy. Yet your own supervisor, me, knows you lacked regulatory clearance, funding, and oversight. Isn't this just a dangerous toy? Gasps rippled through the audience. Bennett slid a folder across the panel table. Here are reports of errors. False positives. Flawed data. Maya's throat tightened. On the big screen, the folder's contents flickered, graphs, highlighted sentences, damning red circles. Her chest constricted. If I panic now, everything dies here. She steadied herself, gripping the lectern. Dr. Bennett is right about one thing, she began, voice trembling but clear. I lacked funding. I lacked space. I lacked support. But what I didn't lack was rigor. She tapped her laptop. Behind her, the screen filled with new data, fresh from Kenya, sent by Aisha days before. These results aren't from a lab with million-dollar budgets. They're from clinics where children would otherwise die waiting. Every single test was validated by independent physicians. And here, she clicked again, showing photos of patients smiling, charts marked recovered, are the lives this so-called toy saved. The room went utterly silent. Maya locked eyes with Bennett. You tried to bury this work, but science doesn't belong to gatekeepers. It belongs to the people it saves. A judge leaned forward. Dr. Bennett, are these error reports your own? Bennett faltered. They were internal drafts. Early, inconclusive, so you withheld updated results? The judge pressed. Murmurs surged. Cameras zoomed in on Bennett's tightening jaw. His credibility cracked in real time. Maya seized the moment. I'm not asking for blind trust. I'm asking for investment in truth, in lives saved. With $200,000, we can scale safely, rapidly, and transparently. Her voice broke, but it was steady with conviction. This isn't about me. It's about every mother who shouldn't have to watch her child fade while waiting for answers. The hall erupted in applause, first scattered, then thundering. The judges conferred, voices low. Then the head judge stood. We've made our decision. The $200,000 grant goes to a pause, a smile, Maya Torres and Cadenza Diagnostics. The crowd surged to its feet. Applause roared. Maya staggered as Jamal rushed the stage, lifting her into a hug. Lily, sitting in the front row with Nora, jumped up and shouted, "That's my mommy." Maya's knees buckled. Tears blurred the lights into stars. She raised the prototype high above her head, not as a trophy, but as proof. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like she was carrying the world alone. She felt carried by it. And Bennett? He slipped out the side door, his voice drowned in the wave of celebration. The next morning, Maya woke to dozens of messages. Congratulations from strangers. Requests from journalists. Invitations from other innovators. But what struck her most was Lily curled at her side, whispering in her sleep, "Mommy won." For once, Maya didn't rush out of bed. She let the morning stretch, sunlight painting stripes across the sheets. Victory wasn't just the grant. It was breathing without fear for the first time in years. With the seed grant secured, Maya rented a modest workshop in a converted warehouse. Concrete floors, flickering lights, and a leaky sink, but it was hers. Aisha arrived with crates of donated equipment. Jamal brought a team of his brightest students, eager to solder wires and organize supplies. This is a revolution, one student said, holding the prototype like sacred glass. Maya smiled. No, it's a tool. The revolution is what we'll do with it. At the clinic, Lily's checkup confirmed what Maya had prayed for, the infection was gone. The child's body was whole again, resilient as her spirit. That night, Lily drew pictures at the kitchen table, stick figures of herself, Maya, and Jamal, with a strange glowing box labeled Mommy's Magic Machine. Maya tucked the drawing into her journal. It wasn't magic. It was science. But to Lily, the two were one and the same. Jamal knocked on Maya's door one evening, holding takeout. Peace offering, he grinned. They sat among blueprints and wires, eating fried rice from cartons. Jamal finally said, "I was wrong to doubt you. You carried all of us." Maya shook her head. No. I nearly broke without you. This wasn't my victory, it was ours. The tension that had haunted them eased. For the first time in years, laughter filled the room. Word spread quickly. Local clinics requested prototypes. Nurses lined up to learn how to use the device. Mothers hugged Maya, whispering, "You saved my child." Jamal proposed an idea: let's start a mentorship program, STEM for the next generation. Not just devices, but minds. Maya hesitated, overwhelmed. But then Lily tugged her sleeve, asking, "Can I help too?" Maya smiled. "Yes, baby. We all can." At a university lecture hall, Maya spoke to a crowd of young women. "I wasn't the smartest in the room. I wasn't the richest. But I was stubborn. And stubbornness is a kind of brilliance." The girls leaned forward, wide-eyed. Some wore hijabs, others hoodies, one had grease-stained mechanic gloves. Maya felt the weight of possibility ripple outward. She was no longer alone. She was a link in a chain. Sorting through her grandmother's diaries one evening, Maya found entries about women in her family: farm workers, seamstresses, teachers. Each had bent rules in small, quiet ways to create survival. Maya whispered aloud, "You built this road for me." She placed the diaries on her desk beside the prototype, binding past and future with gratitude. A manufacturing partnership blossomed in a small Midwest plant. Workers, many from underserved backgrounds themselves, assembled the devices with pride. One elderly machinist said, "Feels good, making something that saves lives instead of just car parts." Maya toured the line, tears in her eyes. Every screw tightened was another step toward a world where no mother lost a child for lack of diagnosis. Months later, Maya stood beneath bright lights again, but this time not to beg for funding. A banner read, "National Science Foundation, Innovation in Healthcare." The presenter's words blurred as Maya accepted the award. Applause thundered. Cameras flashed. But she thought of Lily's small hand clutching hers during the worst nights. This award belonged to that child's faith more than her own genius. The final scene unfolded in a modest community center, where Maya had agreed to give a speech. The stage was plain, the audience a mix of children, teachers, parents, and nurses. Lily, now 6, bounded onto the stage. In her tiny hands, she held one of Maya's old science books, pages dog-eared and worn. With solemn ceremony, she handed Maya a new book titled Dreams Made Real. The crowd laughed and clapped. Maya's voice cracked as she whispered into the microphone, "This journey wasn't about one invention. It was about proving that resilience isn't solitary. It's built when we lift each other, when we refuse to let go, when we believe together." She raised the book high. The audience rose with her. And somewhere deep inside, Maya knew the story wasn't ending. It was only beginning, woven into every child who would dream bigger because she dared to try.